possible change of removing the discussion item B. Just, it's an adopted policy we already had, and I'm just curious as to
we
whether or
still
not.
need to discuss it. There's been a lot of discussion on that still. So, yes, we still need it. Anything else? Call for the question.
Okay, this will be alphabetical. Flaherty?
Aye.
Hall? Aye. Putin? Noyes?
Excused, by the way.
Aye.
Schumeyer?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Okay, approval of minutes for May 11th. And executive, for executive and regular. Your motion?
So moved.
Chris has made a motion, anybody second it?
I'll second.
Seconded by Tony, any discussion, any corrections? Call for the question?
Flaherty?
Aye.
Hall? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Schumeyer?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Just for your information, I just received an email from our incoming superintendent. She's hoping, she has just arrived back home, she's hoping to be on soon. So we will have her in. Are you watching? All right, celebration reports. This is
One of the celebration reports I'd like to start with is she needs a link, which I'll send it to her after I give you my board report.
okay.
Is to welcome Deb Ramsey from the high school. And I don't know what the high school is going to do now, but we're very appreciative of you coming up here to the district level.
Thank you.
And then for the other celebration board, I'm going to stand up so the audience can see this too.
Is there a way we can turn this down? Is
We
that
can
what
turn
this
it
is?
off.
Can you turn it off?
Who's Paul? Jamie, do you mind turning off the AC? It's like, yes, I do. Yes, I do mind. We need your height.
You could just have turned it down, but it was just, we were,
Yeah, it's
hard.
So, this came in the mail this last week, board, and what it says is 2020 Colorado, 2021 RISE Education Fund, Response, Innovation, Student Equity. And this is in reference to the RISE grant, which was the governor's grant. And so this is the note that came with it. Superintendent Halkness, a small gift to extend our gratitude and to acknowledge the incredible passion and commitment of the Montezuma-Cortez School District team this past year. Colorado is stronger because of it. And so this acknowledges who was the recipient for the RISE grant in the state of Colorado. And so if you look at the pins, you can see the majority of it was on the front range. And here we are, right down here.
Yay.
And then the other celebration I have is our golf team that is at state. And so it's very exciting that.
Have we heard anything? But have they started yet?
They played yesterday and today. They represented well. None of them placed very high, but they represented very well.
They made it, that's what's
Yeah,
important.
yeah. And then the track team will go to the state track meet this next week. And I'm sure we'll have some champions out of that.
I'm sure. Favorites. Good. Anything else? We survived school being out.
We did.
It has been a long, long, difficult year. And we all have a smile on our faces still, so it's a celebration for that. Okay, any more? Right, superintendent's report.
Well, board, after many, many years of the board having to listen to my board reports in various positions, this will be my last board report for the district. So I just want to thank you for an incredible career and the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of our students. And I'm really excited to see what the next phase is going to be, the 2.0 as we called it, with the new district administration coming in. I do want to acknowledge Carol Mahasey, who's assistant superintendent, and Jeanette Allen, and also Melissa Bruner, who left in December, for their incredible dedication that has happened for the last several years. We had a very productive 2 days with the new district administration coming in and with Dr. Vanderway as the incoming superintendent. And it was actually a very fun time in showcasing the work that we put in place. But it also was a real reassuring time that this new administration will be taking the district to the next level. And so I'm very, very excited to see what that is. But it's definitely going to be a very dynamic team. Jim Parr, who's our incoming director of curriculum and instruction, will be providing our historical background and the why of why we do things or why we have done it, which is equally just important. And so the few things I'd just like to highlight on my board report, and then I'd like to just take a few minutes and show you a very brief PowerPoint of why we are to the point that we are with the district, in the reasons of why we decided on the specific strategies that we've been using over the last several years. And we actually created this for the new incoming district administration team to provide them the historical knowledge. But then we realized that with the board, we've had a lot of change with our board members, that due to COVID, we normally have work sessions and board orientation, and we weren't able to do that. So we would just like to take a few minutes and just highlight for everyone's background knowledge, the work that we have done and why we have specific things in place and where the new administration will be picking it up and taking it to the next level. So while I'm addressing and highlighting a few things in my board report, Carol, do you mind coming up? And we hadn't talked about this, but do you mind coming?
Sure. Let's take a look.
Okay, so I'd like to acknowledge Kyle Archibek again. He's done a phenomenal job as far as developing the budget. During his board report tonight, he will be talking about the Louis Ariola and CMS playground and what the next steps are going to be in getting the project started. So that's very exciting. Obviously, we want to get it started as quickly as possible so the kids can appreciate it and enjoy it this coming fall. The district accreditation board, the board will be asked to approve the district accreditation rating, and basically this is a carryover from the district accreditation from 2019 and 2020, and they actually paused it for this year because obviously we had COVID and we weren't able to give the state assessments the way that we normally do, and so that provides insufficient data for the state to accredit us. One of the other things that the state is going to be changing, and I had to write this out to make sure I got it correct, is the accreditation that the board will be approving tonight will be going from June 2021 to December 2022, which is a change because usually it's a 12-month accreditation according to the district's results on the state assessments. The reason why they're asking for the 18-month, which is actually very positive for our district, is because there's going to be some policy changes with HB 18/1353. basically, they're gonna be looking at, the state assessments that the state's currently giving, and then what grade levels it should, be revised, if any. So just know with the board action tonight, when the board does approve, the same accreditation rating that we were on, that this accreditation rating will be for 18 months. And Carol Mahasey will be presenting the staff exit survey feedback during her board report. I really want to highlight again and acknowledge Jim Farr, who will be coming to the district office. And so I do know that the HR department trained the interview committee for Louis Areola and PV last night. And so this will be one of the very first things that the new administration will be doing the first week of July, is conducting the interviews for Jim Farr's replacement. And then Title III ESSER funds, Kyle will be talking about the next steps with the Board of Education with that. And then I had highlighted basically my exit of the district, which sounds very strange. And at that point, I would like to entertain any questions that the board may have.
It's your last report, but you're gonna have so much fun enjoying that grandbaby.
Very
And your
looking forward to it.
husband can go hiking when you want, when the weather's nice. So enjoy your retirement.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Sherry.
You know, I have not asked you to stay on. I was gonna miss you, but I will. But I think that it's important to have your
Yes, definitely looking forward to the next phase.
Maybe, enjoy. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Stacy. Okay, so with this, we titled this A Journey Towards Excellence because that obviously is our journey. We always strive to have excellence for our students in Montezuma-Cortez School District.
Oh, excuse me, did you stand reshoot the thing? I'm sorry, but
No, that's
I
okay.
didn't-
So with that, Carol, do you mind doing the introduction to the
Sure.
pictures?
It is also on Facebook. Sure, so one of the things that we talked about is, really reflecting on the time that the current team has worked together, which also tends to correspond with the time that the district has been engaged in the new school turnaround work that was introduced under Senate Bill 163. And so Superintendent Hopkins will go more deeply into that as we go through a timeline and kind of explore some of the key decision points, some of the rationale behind those decision points, and some of the strategies that were implemented that have led to some great gains in this district, as you all know, and that will be highlighted in this presentation as well. But we thought a little bit of fun since it's summer and we were working with onboarding the new team, and also we shared this information with our principal team at the end of the year and used it as a jumping off point for them to set some priorities to share with the incoming team as well. So you'll see that at the end of the deck. But one of the things we thought was funny is just thinking about, sometimes when things aren't going as well as you would like, it can feel a little bit like you're a kindergarten teacher on day one and you haven't quite got the class under control yet. But that we've really moved from some places where maybe we didn't have all the systems in place that we needed to have to a place where we have dramatic improvements in graduation. We're graduating our kids with the skills and experiences that they need to be successful in life and to pursue whatever college or career paths are important to them. And so I think, in a nutshell, that progression has been really exciting. And I think the most exciting part of that, while you'll see the data, you'll see the strategies and things like that, but the most exciting part of that is what we always go back to, which is our kids and our graduates and what we're enabling them to walk across the stage to in their lives and in our community. And so it was really an honor and privilege, I think, for our team to reflect on that and to see the impact that we've been able to be a part of, which obviously also includes, first and foremost, the principals and the teachers and the folks that are in the buildings educating our students. So what you'll see is an overview, Superintendent Hopkins can present of what that looked like and how we have come to the place where we are today and the work that we'll be moving forward and built upon with the new administrative team.
Okay, so this is just a timeline at a glance. Basically, our reality started in 2009 when Senate Bill 163 passed, which is the accreditation bill. And at this time, prior to this time, districts and the Board of Education were able to assign the accreditation ratings for the schools and the districts. with local control. But with Senate Bill 163, this is when they started the calculation, which as the board knows is performance frameworks, where the students, our students are measured against the students in the state of Colorado, both in growth and both in achievement. And so basically what had happened then is we received a reality check, and that's we had started making some changes, but we still had schools working in silos. And so in 2012, this is when the superintendent at the time was notified, as well as the board president, that the district was going to need to improve the achievement of our students, because our school, our district at that time was designated as a turnaround district for the state of Colorado. So at that point, the board was very committed, and they made some structural changes that needed to happen. And then at that point, we had our last superintendent prior to my tenure, and that was Alex Carter that came, and then that's when Jeanette Allen had joined the district team. But then that's where we strategically, being the district would turn around under Senate Bill 163, there were 3 options that we could do. So working closely with the Board of Education, we elected to go with a third-party provider, but we joined with the UVA, and it says the UVA turnaround program, but it was really a framework. And what the UVA allowed with the framework is they came in and did a whole district analysis on whether the leadership was capable of turning the school district around before they would even partner with us. The answer was yes. And then that started our pathway in creating our systems for our district, not only to have a more efficient system in place, but having a system from the board level clear down to the classroom level to improve the instruction and the learning for our students. And then in 2016, I was able to have the privilege of serving as superintendent, and then that's when Carol came on as assistant superintendent. And then we exceeded the 5 years on the Senate Bill 163 accountability clock. And that's when we had to go to the state board with a pathways plan. And at that time, I really have to acknowledge the board members that were seated, because they all, with the exception one that had a work conflict, they came to Denver and sat and represented the school district while we presented to the state board. And so I believe that at that time, that's when we really started working very closely together as everyone as a team for what's best for our students. And so that was in 2017, our pathway plan was approved. And then in 2018, we were able to get off the clock and move to improvement. And some of that was, yes, we did have a year where we made drastic changes, but part of it was prior to that, we were making some very good changes for student achievement in the district, but we didn't have it all together as far as a line plan and moving forward. And so it was a celebration. We actually had a district celebration in 2018 when we got off the clock. And then Manal Elementary went the very next year. So it was the next year, same time, and we're back at Denver with the state board with the pathway plan. And the state board approved the plan. And then we continue to work deeply with UVA and really refining our practices. And then that leads us up to where we are now. So with this, and Carol, would you like to go into the accreditation ratings prior?
So this is the historical accreditation performance of our district and our schools prior to that pivot point that Superintendent Harkness described, where we started working deeply with UVA. So this is just being provided as historical context of where we've been. And we'll see later in the presentation our last 5 years of accreditation status and how that's changed. But you can see that there were significant years where we had multiple turnaround schools, which is indicated by the red, and that they were primarily clustered at the elementary. And so that was one of the key things, is how do we start working with the elementary first and then start moving up to the rest of the district. You can also see that the district itself had been on priority improvement since 2011, straight through to 2015. So the work with UVA really began going into the 2015 school year. And you'll see, as Superintendent Hockness describes that work, kind of what the key strategies were that were implemented and what the impact was on our performance.
So when we decided to partner, and it truly was a partnership with the University of Virginia, basically it was focused on our elementary schools and with district leaders. And with district leaders, when we reference district leaders, it also means our school leaders, because we're all district leaders in that context. And the preference was, we need to focus on our adult actions for our students, regardless of where our students are coming in at, because really we're going to make the change by focusing specifically on our actions and how is that going to affect student learning in the schools themselves. So if you look over at the right, this is what we had. We developed these as what are our needs, but we were lacking quite a lot of key points, like our communication strategy, what is our culture and our shared expectations as a district, how are we developing and supporting our teachers and our leaders when they come to our district and stay in our district, and how do we share our expectations with everyone. And we really had some promising practices in place, but we really did not have a strategic plan to put all these together. What is our assessment system and why? How are we assessing the students? At that time, we had a very low participation on CMS at the state level, which had dire consequences for our district. And I'm sure some of you remember that, because when we had to do a whole campaign and tell our story at the district level, but we can't tell our story and we can't have our students take the test. So there was a lot of challenges in moving forward. And so I'm very excited about this part. It was announcing the big rocks, what are our priorities? And as a team, we came together and said, well, we really need to be data driven. We need to look at the information on the student learning and how can we adjust it? What is our culture and climate, not only for our students, but for our staff? And then eliciting observation and feedback. And this is one of the crucial things as we go and hire our millennium teachers is, you know, one of the questions they have, quite frankly, over salary is, how are you going to grow me as a professional? And so how can we have a systematic process in place district-wide? And so that's where the introduction of the 90-day plans came in, and what is our highest leverage priorities as a district, and how is that going to be implemented in the schools while appreciating and honoring the autonomy of each individual school. So we define what it is, and the schools define how they want to do it out of the 90-day plans. And this is going to be continued underneath the new administration after our 2 days. So the board will still be hearing about the 90-day plans and the presentation of the 90-day plans, which is very exciting.
Sure, this is just a deeper slide. So these slides kind of go a little deeper into what was highlighted in the timeline. So the work began with UVA. There was a deep needs assessment analysis of what are the reasons that are contributing to the low performance, and really taking those then and reframing them as the priorities and the big rocks and some strategies to start to improve. Then we did exceed the state clock of 5 years as a district, so we went and presented our plan to the state board, as Superintendent Hockness mentioned. You know, one of the things to highlight with that, board members that went remember this, but we were the first district and or school in the state to go before the state board with a pathways presentation following the passage of Senate Bill 163. So we really were leaders in the state in demonstrating what a good proposal looked like and demonstrating what that process should look like. So I think we're very proud of the work that the team at that time did and the board's support in that. But that was a really pivotal moment to solidify our pathways plan, to get feedback and approval from the state board that we were heading in the right direction. We can maintain our accreditation under this pathway plan. And then we believed with work with UVA, we would start to show some results, which we did. So the following year, we did get off the accountability clock for the district. And you can also start to see that we started, the previous slide I showed you was a lot of dark orange and a lot of red. Now we're starting to see more yellow and some greens are starting to pop up as well.
So the constant message that was always given to the district and actually the state board too was, getting off the clock and improving our accreditation rating. And this is something that I want to leave here tonight, is that was the floor. And it did take a lot of climbing out to attain the floor, but it's really not the ceiling for where the district needs and has the potential to go, is to continue forward. So just because we're not on the time sensitive and basically have the platform for change, there's a very, very strong foundation for the district in moving forward. And the branding and messaging, the district strategic plan, which when we were having dinner, we had a conversation about this, but I would really like to encourage the board. The district strategic plan actually was ending this last year, and we just went ahead and implemented it because we had COVID and we knew there was going to be a change in administration. But really working with the incoming superintendent on the strategic plan and what does the board still want to have the same visions? Does it need to be tweaked, or is there additional goals that the board and the superintendent would like to have? But that really has been the beacon in driving the district forward and coming together as a commonality. And also being able to assess whether we achieved our goals or not as a district. And then, as you know, this is just our culture and climate and our branding. And this happened from all the school teams. We had committees together. The board elicited feedback in this. We had community feedback. And so, these are our priorities and how we want to be presented to the community and to the state of Colorado. Yeah, and so these are the four areas, as you know. And then this is an analogy that I always use at the end of the year convocation, is we're all climbing the mountain together. And if you notice the four side parts, growing leaders, building a strong team, consistent implementation, and continuous quality improvement is a reflection to what's in the strategic plan. And then at the end of the year, we would mark where we were to in the goals for the district. And this is where we're leaving the district for the next administration to move forward. And then, Carol, would you like to talk about these slides?
Sure. So we've been looking at the accreditation data, and this is just some of, one of the strategic plan goals is that we want all of our students to be reading, writing, and doing math on grade level, because we know that's so critical to their success in school and also their success in their future. And so we've been tracking that over the last 5 years, and that's the data that underlies the accreditation framework, but it also is core to the strategic plan. So this is just a snapshot of the district changes in achievement over the last 5 years. So this is elementary English language arts, and you can see moving from left to right that we've increased the percentage of students that are reading and writing at or above grade level by 9%. And equally important, we've decreased the percentage of students that were in that lowest category or does not meet by 11%. So that's good progress at the elementary level over the last 5 years. This is the same data for elementary math. So we've seen an increase of the percent of students at or above grade level at 6%. Remember, the district strategic plan goal is 5%, and we've decreased the percent of students at the lowest level by 10%. This is the middle school data. We've increased the percentage of students at or above grade level by 9%, and decreased it by 13%. And then increased math by 2% and decreased it by 0. And then here's growth. So, we always talk about achievement and growth. Achievement is where are students performing at. Growth is, are they catching up, and how are they performing compared to their peers? And we always want to have a growth goal of at least 50, because we know that means that they are making equal to or greater progress than their peers. And so you can see that we met that district strategic plan goal in 2018-19 for language arts, and we're getting closer in math. This is for grades 4 through 8. And then equally important, how are some of our specific populations of students doing? So our students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, and our students that are Native American. So you can see on the left, these two are English language arts for our students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, and our Native American students, and then math for our students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, and math for our Native American students. And the bars are all going in the right direction. And in fact, we were able to meet that 50 percentile growth target for language arts for both our free and reduced lunch students and our Native American students. I think this data, going back to that first slide that we saw, is the cherry on the sundae, because ultimately we want our students to graduate. We want them to graduate with the skills and experiences they need to be successful in pursuing their dreams. So you can see here, this is a little bit of a longer timeline. This is actually from 2011, 2012, but we've increased the district graduation rate at the high school by 20%, which is really significant. And that's a lot of students whose lives were changed, who walked across the stage that might not have otherwise. And we can also see that SWOS is improving their graduation rate as well. So that's exciting, because those are some of our more at-risk students. This is our dropout rate. So this is the percentage of students that leave our schools during any given year and don't return. And so you can see it's a little bit less dramatic because the numbers are smaller, but you can see that since 2014-15 till 19-20, we've decreased the dropout rate at the high school at M-CSD from 6.1 to 2.5. So we've exceeded our goal from the strategic plan, and we are also approaching getting closer to the state average, which is great. Again, these are students that stayed in school that maybe previously wouldn't have, that are now either have already graduated or having the opportunity to graduate and to pursue their dreams in life. So this is exciting data, because even though it's colors and numbers and lines on a graph, these are kids that we were charged with educating, and it's exciting to see the changes in these outcomes for kids.
And so every year we have an end of the year work session with the administrators and review what our priorities are for the district and moving forward and what needs to be adjusted. And so these are the priorities going into next year. Is underneath this district strategic plan, all of these supported, is obviously first and foremost the health and safety for all our students and staff, and hopefully there won't be an issue with COVID and moving forward. And then the district big rocks, and the board probably remembers that, some of these look familiar, as effective educators. Are we growing, are we recruiting our high quality teachers? Are we growing our leaders in the schools, meaning teacher leaders? Are we helping the practice of what good instruction looks like, while providing, targeted professional development that the teachers want at the school level? And then the data-driven instruction. And then with the students that are struggling, do we have the supportive structure or systems in place to support them? And then you will notice with culture, that's one that we started working on, that we have now identified is really being attuned to the social, emotional, and the trauma-informed strategies. And then also the proactive discipline with PBIS, but also increasing parent engagement. This is something that we did talk with Dr. Vanderway and her new administrative team. And she was very supportive of this, and she's realized that basically everyone's gone through trauma this last year, including not only our students, but our staff. And so she's going to go and, I really appreciate and see what's happening in the schools, listen to the community, listen to the board, listen to the teachers, before she determines what does 2.0 look like for our district, which I really appreciate. But we definitely wanted to let you know so you have this information in moving forward. And then, so this was, this was the principal retreat. And basically you can see what the priority implementation strategies are that the principals have agreed upon, focusing on culture and social emotional support, deepening the data meetings, deepening the rigor of instruction in the classroom, providing more coaching and support for teachers, and then building a system of student culture and behavior, which will address the social emotional, which we are very concerned about and moving forward, but also having those key strategies in place. And then obviously we had a lot of this in place that we were going to move forward on, and then we were detoured with COVID. And then our priority came to the health and well-being of the staff and the students and the community. But as Sherry Wright said earlier, we do have a celebration because out of 165 instructional days in our calendar, we were in person all but 21 days that we were remote. And that in itself is phenomenal. And so we came out of it, stronger than ever. And I'm glad that we acknowledged everyone for Staff Appreciation Week instead of Teacher Appreciation Week, and we need to get the board their t-shirts that we still see staff wearing even though it's summer, which is exciting. And then that segues into, look forward to seeing what 2.0 looks like with the board and the new district administration and our students and staff. So that's the why. That we are to the point of where we are at this moment.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I'm sure that helped our newer board members. We knew it. You've been in quite a while, but Cody and Stacy and Chris. That I hope that explains something to you.
Yeah, amazing work. Amazing.
Well, I just wish we had the opportunity to work together like we normally would have this
Yes.
last year.
We usually have 2 retreats by now.
And work sessions, so, but it's a new year.
It's a new year. We can start fresh. Carol, did you want to add anything?
In terms of my staff report or? Yes, please, board. Thank you. This is also going to be my last board report, so I wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve. I have a couple things I want to highlight from my board report, and then I want to briefly go through our teacher retention data, which we, as you know, provide to the board every December and every June. But the couple things I want to highlight from my written report while I'm getting that set up is, first of all, I would like to welcome and introduce our new HR director, Cindy Eldridge. So we're very excited to have her join our team. She has a vast background in HR and has hit the ground running, or sprinting as the case may be. We've been joking that we've been sprinting side by side. I'm sprinting to the finish line, she's sprinting to the start line. So she has been great about just jumping in and really learning about the district, meeting staff, participating in different things like the training last night for Lewis and Pleasant View, the hiring team and things like that. So I think you'll find her to be a great asset to the district, and I'm excited to welcome her to the team, and she'll just be a great asset to the incoming administrative team that we will have on board. And then I provided my board report with other updates. I'm happy to answer any questions about those, and then I can briefly go through the teacher retention data. So any questions about my board report overall?
Did you say you'd be highlighting the recruitment strategy?
It is a little bit in the retention information, so we can talk about it there if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. It is tired. It's ready to.
Is it sprinting towards the exit line?
It is, I think so, unfortunately. So board, you'll remember in December, we had a conversation about teacher retention data. So that was data that was available at that time from May to December. Now we have augmented that with the data that has become available from January through present day. So we'll be going through that. It's a similar format. Just to kind of remind everybody, we'll just touch briefly on some of the national and state context. So what are some of the drivers of the data that you're going to be seeing? By understanding the root causes, just like we did with our school improvement, then we can understand what strategies and priorities might be most effective in addressing those root causes. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll look a little bit at some of our retention data trends, both for teachers and for other types of staff that we employ. We'll look at our exit survey data. So we do exit surveys with our staff, or they have the opportunity to do them as they leave. So we'll look at that from the most recent period. We're actually not going to do teacher perception survey this time, I apologize. And then we'll talk about next steps, which is where we'll talk about what you were mentioning, Chris. So the big picture headline, as you all know, is that teacher shortage is a critical national and state issue. So there's a national teacher shortage. First of all, there is a state teacher shortage and there's a local teacher shortage. And some of the drivers of all of those are more intense at our local level. And you'll see why as we go through some of the data. So the key factors that we know from research are driving this teacher shortage are fewer people are choosing teaching as a career. So we see that over time, the number of people that are enrolling in what we would consider teacher preparation programs in Colorado has fallen by more than 13%. And of those people that started those teacher preparation programs, 17% of them didn't complete. And so fewer people are going in, fewer people are completing. And then of the people who are graduating, a third of those are not even going into teaching as a profession at all. So we're losing people on the front end as they go into their college careers. The second thing that we're seeing, and we're seeing this locally as well, is that new teachers are leaving teaching as a career earlier. So we're seeing the attrition rates within the first 5 years of teaching at between 19 and 30%, depending on which study you look at. So we see people, if they've made it through college, they've chosen their career, they've actually gotten into school, we still lose, anywhere from a fifth to a third of those in their first 5 years and onto other careers. The other thing that's happening simultaneously is our most experienced educators are nearing retirement. So we do have an experienced and effective core workforce, and many of those folks are nearing retirement. And we are blessed in this district that many of our retired teachers have chosen to return as critical shortage teachers, and I definitely acknowledge and am grateful for that contribution. And then this is really when I wanted, one thing I want to leave with the board that I think is so critical is we are not competitive at all on salaries. And it's not just teachers anymore, it's principals, it's assistant principals. We're getting turned down for secretary jobs. Bus drivers are turning us down, secretaries are turning us down. You can pretty much name any employment category that we are trying to hire for. We are making offers and hearing no, making offers and hearing no, making offers and saying, I wish I could, but. So the salary is a key driver. There are other drivers, but the salary is crucial. So we talked about this as a national context, there's a state context, there's a local context. Nationally, teacher salaries lag other salaries. They're lower than other salaries for people who have attained 4-year degrees. So we're already not competitive on a national level, which is why you see those people that maybe thought they were going to get into teaching, leave that as a career, not graduate with that, switch their majors. So that's the national context. Colorado is already lower than the national context in terms of the state average salaries, primarily because of Tabor and because of some of the tax implications of what's happening in our state. We're not able to raise salaries to be competitive nationally, even though nationally teacher salaries are less competitive than other professions. Then locally, our salaries are not even competitive with Colorado salaries. So if there's one thing I could leave with the board and with the leadership team is that we really have to look at salaries, because that is going to be a critical driver as to whether we're able to fill these positions or we're not. We are not competitive nationally, we're not competitive statewide, and we're not competitive regionally. And it's gone beyond just teachers and leaders, it's gone into all employee type positions that we're trying to hire. So this is our district retention trends. This is teachers from 2015 to the current day. And you can see the top line is the percentage of our teachers that turn over every year in the district, and the bottom line is the state average. So at our highest point in 2015, 26% of our teachers turned over in that 1 year. Thankfully, for the past 2 years, we've been able to stabilize at 20%. It's actually 19.8%, but we rounded up to 20. So we are making some progress, but we're still significantly higher than the state average turnover rate, which last year dropped to 14% from 16%. So again, there's still that gap between state trends and our local trends. So that's teachers. This is all positions. So you heard me mentioning that these issues and these drivers are also impacting other positions, not just teachers. So you can see that we've had, the previous slide was 5-year turnover rates. this is last year's turnover rates, last year being the prior year. So we had, you know, close to 20% turnover rates or a little bit higher for most positions. But when you look at paraprofessionals, which is another key instructional position in our schools, we're turning over close to half of those positions every year. And I see nods from the audience, but if you ask teachers, they will affirm this. And if you ask principals, they will affirm this. We are also struggling to attract and retain paras, and that's another critical part of our instructional. So exit survey data. So as I mentioned before, when we get resignations or retirement notifications from staff, we always send them a nice email, thanking them for their service and giving them an opportunity to provide feedback through an exit survey. We have a standard, you know, group of questions that we've taken from best practices. So this is our exit survey data from January through June. I presented the exit survey data from May through December, and this will continue to be presented with the new team. So this respondents were, you know, 36% teachers, 45% classified, a few administrators and a few district administrators, and then other folks like nurses and counselors. So why are staff leaving RE1? The number one reason was retirement. The second reason was taking another position. Third reason was moving out of the area. And then the kind of fourth category of reasons were things personal, people that were starting families. And then, you know, there were a couple folks that had some feedback that they were dissatisfied with the district. But one of the things I wanted to pull out is that of the folks that left between January and June, 55% of them said that they were not paid well for their position in the district. So that is definitely a factor that is influencing people's decisions. So what can we do better? Definitely people would like to see continued improvement in communication and employee voice, and that is definitely one of the reasons why we continue to prioritize that as a key focus area that you see through all the different priorities. 23% said that they left primarily because of salary and benefits. 9% said actually that the work environment was good, so they didn't have any major concerns. And then 14% wanted more flexibility in calendar schedules, so people wanted to work from home on PD days. A couple of comments about the 4-day calendar and wanting that to be revisited. And then the other category is a combination of things. Work expectations, work-life balance, childcare, things like that. So this is very similar to what we saw in the fall. The main difference I would say is in the fall, we saw a lot of people say that they left for health reasons, and that was really driven by COVID. So we also always like to look at, again, how we're performing in the national context. So this is a recap of national exit survey data for teachers. And you'll see some very similar drivers of why people are leaving their current positions in education or in their current school across the country. Personal circumstances like starting a family, pursuit of a position other than a K-12 teacher, people leaving teaching profession, dissatisfaction with some of the accountability and evaluation measures, dissatisfaction with teaching as a career, need for higher salary. And then those last three have to do with that communication and employee voice piece we talked about. So next steps with teacher recruitment and retention. So as Superintendent Hawkins mentioned, we've been spending some deep time over the last couple of weeks, and especially over the last couple of days, really onboarding the new HR director and the new administrative team into this data, into what we have tried and what is in place, what is working and where there's still gaps, and some other ideas of what they could try. And so these are the things that we have in place or are exploring. So one of our biggest strategies is to really try to partner closely with educational institutions and alternative licensure programs that work in our area. Because they're more likely to be serving people that already live here, that understand the context, that already have a place to live, that know our community and our families and our students. So we work closely with Fort Lewis, we work closely with DU actually has a social work program down here, and other regional colleges like PCC. And then we've been working with Betcher and PEPC for the last, I don't know, probably 10 years on alternative licensure candidates, and that has been an effective strategy for us. We're going to continue to enhance new teacher support. When we hired Cindy Hopp, who some of you have met, as our new teacher development support coach, we saw in 1 year our teacher satisfaction among new teachers and their description of our new teacher support in the teacher perception survey double in terms of the improvements, and we exceeded the state. So that we know is working, and we know that the more we can provide support to those new teachers, maybe we can keep some of them from leaving the profession after 5 years or leaving the district after 5 years. So we're really doubling down on new teacher support. Another thing that we know from research really influences whether teachers decide to stay or go is strong school leadership. So we've spent a lot of time, attention, resources in developing our school leaders and in growing our own school leaders from within. So we're very excited about the current team of principals and school leaders, assistant principals. They are on fire for students. They care deeply about their teachers. They care about this community, and they are ready to lead. And so I think that investment is also paying off. And as you remember from the teacher perception survey, one of our highest rated areas, despite the pandemic, is that teachers were saying our schools are led by effective leaders. So that really means that strategy is working too. We know how critical that is. Anyone in this room that's ever worked for a boss that you didn't like, you know what a difference maker that is versus a boss that you love. So that's important to continue. And then we're going to the new team is going to continue to work with you all and work with the community to really try to get a multi-year plan to implement salary structure improvements and pay raises where feasible. And to utilize the temporary resources we have, like the COVID resources, to try to offset that. I know the board has had a lot of discussions about that. We want to continue to improve communication, engagement, and school culture. We want to continue to retain and deeply appreciate our retired teachers who come back under the Critical Teacher Shortage Act. And then this is one I think that you were highlighting, Chris, that was in my board report, is that many districts across the country, but especially in the Four Corners, have been exploring and implementing for many years the use of cultural exchange teachers. So teachers that are coming from other countries, that are coming over here for a cultural exchange experience, that teach in our classrooms, teach our kids, also provide information to kids about their culture. Sometimes the classroom here will Zoom with a classroom that they may have taught at in their home country so that kids can meet kids from other countries, that type of thing. And I think one of the reasons why regional schools have gone to that is exactly the drivers we're talking about, is that while our salaries may not be competitive in our region, our state, or our nation, they are competitive in some countries. And so there are teachers in other countries that would love to come here and teach and that have high levels of qualifications and have years and years of experience. And so they're applying to us now. And so we are considering some candidates that have J-1 visas that want to come over here on a cultural exchange program and teach our kids. And so this would be a pilot. It would be evaluated to see, is it effective? Does it work? What are the pros of this? What are the cons? And consider whether this becomes a permanent part of the package of recruitment strategies that the district has outlined. So this is something that I would say is new and that you may see this upcoming year. You may have the opportunity to meet teachers and colleagues that are here on cultural exchange. I think there could be some really cool benefits for students and for schools. One thing, just so you know, there is a very rigorous vetting process. So those teachers would interview through a normal interview process. They would be selected by the normal interview teams. They have background checks. All of those things would still be in place. And their experience and transcripts are evaluated by a professional company to ensure that their education is equivalent of a U.S. degree. And in most cases, the candidates we've seen so far have masters. And many of them have principal licenses and special education background, which is great. On average, the candidates we've seen so far have 10 years experience. And so they are coming in with experience and education that we believe will be, comparable to and complementary to United States teaching experience and education. So again, it's a pilot, it's new. It is something that our surrounding districts, especially in Arizona and New Mexico, have implemented for years. So it's not completely new concept to this area, but it is something that I think has the opportunity to start to fill the gap and to also provide our students with a potentially rich cultural experience.
Yeah.
And like Carol says, we have surrounding districts that have been using this. Central Consolidated has for many years. I'm wondering, and I'm actually looking at Cindy, if perhaps the HR department could provide the board with an update in August of what that looks like and where are the teachers placed, and would the board like that? Because this is a new concept for our district.
I know Melanie Reamy, she, I think it might have been Australia. Barb Hill did also.
Well, they
That's right.
traded.
Yeah,
That was a trade, yeah.
Like a
Of course, then she left and took one of our teachers with her.
Yes.
Dang
We
it.
don't want to send our teachers anywhere, we just want to welcome them.
Yeah, well, she took one of them with her. That's Australia.
Yeah.
Professional development tool. It's really cool.
It
Less
was.
experienced teachers being able to be
She was a great.
exposed to teaching around the world. Same thing with students. I mean, just the network out of it, the exposure to it. It'd be great to-
Yeah, I think we're very hopeful that it can be a positive impact this year on our students and community, and then potentially become part of our recruitment strategies moving forward. Any other comments or questions either on this presentation or my board report?
Does that program with the J1 pieces, do those teachers have the option for pathway to citizenship, or is it strictly a exchange?
It's just visas.
Yeah, so this particular program is a cultural exchange. I believe they can serve 3 years initially, and if they're eligible and desirous of renewal, then they can add an additional 2 years, but it's not necessarily designed to be a pathway to citizenship. And we are not the J1 sponsor for their visa, just to clarify that either. We are working with qualified J1 sponsoring organizations in this country that have that experience, that expertise, and they're ultimately responsible for the visa. We are just the placement employer.
We actually have a niece that's doing that's the very thing in Spain. And it's been very highly successful for her. In fact, it's kind of like what Stacy said, I don't think she's going to come back.
Right, thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Mr. Hawkins, do you have anything to say?
Yes, ma'am.
His last one too.
Good evening, board.
Your last handout.
That's right, last handout.
Turn the
Can
air
I
conditioner
get
on.
everybody? I think so. Okay, good evening, board. I'll be brief. I know there's a lot of information to go over tonight, and thank you for having me here. The first section of this report has to do with HVAC, some issues that have come up, and I know it's on as a discussion item. So I'll just hold off on that part. A couple things to update, actually 3 or 4 things. The Kemper roof, the gymnasium roof was damaged from a storm a few months ago, and it's completely done now. We finished that up, and it looks great. The girls softball field, there's been significant progress there. They got some excellent infield playing dirt, 60% clay, 40% sand, I believe. Is that what it is, Susan?
It's 60% sand, 40% clay. It's actually the same dirt as is on Cruise.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it has, and it's treated. We looked at some local stuff and it was so crushed that it had a lot of sharp edges, and it's much, much better. The parents have been very involved. We've got a chain link fence ordered and it should be in soon. They're going to help put that up, maintenance will assist. Other than that, except for maybe buying a scoreboard, I don't think there's going to be any major expense foreseeable, so hopefully that 20,000 will about cover it.
I was noticing the trees were getting a little taller. I was like, well, it's about time. Start chopping the tops of the trees off or move the scoreboard.
Yeah, and we were talking about moving that one up, but I think, we'll see what that is. But anyway, long story short, on a separate note, there's a large retaining wall next to the middle school, and parts of it are falling down. And I talked to Mr. Lopez, and they put it on the 10-year capital reserve plan. That will need to be replaced, not right now or this fall, but probably next summer or something like that. And that cost will be significant. I'm estimating about $100,000. But I remember when that building was first finished, the new part, that retaining wall was only 6 feet away from the building. And maintenance actually moved it out and put in a bunch of builders, and it's done very well for 25 years. So But I'm excited about that with the girls softball field. There's a lot of tradition there, a lot of sentimental value. I hear a lot about that, so thank you. Thanks to Susan and the parents that have been driving forth, and also our maintenance department. The high school construction concerns, I believe we're at closure. They finished the carpet replacement. That was their last major thing to do. And I was down there today and it looks really good. There was one room the custodian pointed out that had a little bit of shrinkage. We have a walkthrough Thursday at 2. Tammy's going to be there, so I'll address that issue with them then. So it's good that we got on that. So thank you for that as well. I have 3 capital reserve requests coming to you tonight. Those are something we can discuss when we get to those. And perhaps I mentioned this last month, but we do have security alarms both at the warehouse and the bus garage, the buildings themselves. And that's through Alpine Security, and essentially they're burglar alarms. So when any employee comes in, they have a certain amount of time to put the code in. So I think that'll really help as far as being proactive. So, and that's everything I have, with the exception of how cool Kemper is with air conditioning. I see on the spot right now, because
the reason we're not.
her room is just as hot or hot as this one, so how's your room been? So,
Well, I was excited to be able to go in there for the summer and work out on it because we did have air conditioning. And I know there's some kind of tweaks that have to be done because sometimes it's humid, we don't have it completely together. But it's great to be in there because I couldn't be in there. And it used to be like this room right now.
Yeah. And we're going to
Only
turn
more
that on.
bodies.
Yeah, more bodies in.
Yeah, we had
This is wonderful.
summer school going on at Mesa and Kemper. We had a couple 100-degree days last week.
Yes, we did.
And the systems worked well. So again, thank you. And the teachers and the students will benefit greatly in the very near future. So
How's the scoreboard at the high school coming along? Is that almost done?
the what?
The new scoreboard at the high school, how's that for their soccer field?
I have not looked at that, Chris. I know they were getting ready to pour the concrete for that, but I would have to check on that. Yeah, and then Chris's company came and drilled these giant holes to put the I-beams in, just like the scoreboard with Panther Stadium. And they were deep, so. Yeah. So thank you. That's everything I have. Any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Did you turn the air conditioner
Let's reminisce with old times. Certainly I will.
Probably have like a little spacey.
That's a very good point, Dan.
Thank you.
You're a wizard. Did I miss anybody? Kyle, well, no, Kyle's at the very, any more administrators? All right, Kyle, go for it. You notice I turned the air conditioner on when you ready to talk.
Right.
I'd
Good
just like to
evening.
point out that Kyle's going to be the only one at the next board meeting that's here tonight. No pressure, Kyle. No pressure.
Only consistent one, Kyle.
All right.
We have stickum power.
Good evening, board, superintendent, audience. Tonight, and board members, you got my board report in here. You will see the proposed budget for school year 2021-22. I presented a preliminary budget in May and not a lot changed from there. I'll give some highlights of what did change. A couple of things, the school finance bill was passed between when we spoke last, and a couple of the revenue amounts changed. So the property tax revenues that was preliminary provided to change a little bit, and so was the state share. So property taxes changed by a little over $500,000, and state share changed right under $700,000. So at the end of the day, overall, our total program funding decreased by about $97,000 from what we anticipated. So it's not a huge decrease considering on the overall, we're seeing about $2 million more than we saw last year from the state overall. So not a big deal in the grand scheme of the overall picture. Another thing that I'd like to mention is last month, we provided a supplemental for the rural funding we provided for this school year. And the curriculum adoption was also presented at the same board meeting. And we discussed afterwards, and in order to make sure that we could get those materials here in a timely manner, to make sure that they were in front of the teachers before the school year started and that we didn't get in the back of the line with all the other districts, there was some of that funding that we used to support that purchase so that we could get those things running. So we weren't late on that. And so you'll see later that we used $155,000 of the $390,000 we were awarded to make sure we could secure that purchase. So we'll be rolling $234,000 of that into next year. So that's just a little bit of a change there. One of the things I just wanted to set sights on was the self-insurance was a little high last year compared to years prior. Fortunately, at the end of the year, we started seeing those claims go down. So it evened out and we were able to pay based on what we budgeted. So I didn't have to come to the board and ask for any more money to pay for it. And based on some of the participants that we're expecting to have incoming and some of the participants that are going to be retiring and leaving, I'm hoping that we have a better year next year and we can see those costs kind of go down again and start recouping some of those costs. Thankfully, the district in the last 5 or 6 years has maintained that self-insurance very well. So we had money that we'd saved in previous years to kind of help us out and make sure we didn't feel that as bad as we could have. So with that, that's the budget part of it. I wanted to move on. The next thing is the Lewis Playground. Last month, the board approved an award for the Lewis Areola Middle School Playground. It was an award provided to us from the Colorado Health Foundation. And I believe I was looking at the minutes last month and I don't know if all of the details were provided, and I'll take full responsibility for that because I should have vetted that before it got to this point. However, we were able to make sure and correct it all. I talked to Mr. Parr, Mr. Pearson, and we found out kind of what happened and made sure we have a plan to make sure these things don't happen in the future. However, essentially what's happening is we're going to get $500,000, what you've already received, and then we're going to get another $200,000 in January, and that's the complete award with $10,000 that the PTO, Lucy Areola, raised, so it's put into this whole project. The piece of it that we have to as a district come up with is between here and January, if we want to get both projects done as soon as possible, because the grantor, I think, was working with some timelines and deadlines on their side in order to get materials and everything on their side. So they were very, I don't want to say pushy, but they needed our feedback as quick as possible. So in order to make both those projects happen, the district is going to have to be able to provide about $180,000 between now and January, and then we'll get it back in January. So it's not a huge issue. It's just something I wanted you guys to be aware of to make sure that we can get both these projects done as soon as possible. In the budget going into next year, I will probably be bringing a supplemental sometime between here and December once we start having to pay that differential. But at this point in time, the grant award was approved, I think, by every board member last month. So there's no other issues at this point. I just wanted you to be aware. And then in the future, just to make sure that we're good on all ends, I'll probably bring a supplemental for the exact difference instead of asking for some amount of money and waiting to see what the expense is. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. But as far as we're concerned, that project is moving as fast as we can work with Colorado Health. Starting tomorrow morning, I just wanted to bring that in front of you before we made any huge decisions for the district. ESSER 3, as you are aware, we were awarded as a district in the realm of $9.7 million for ESSER 3, which we are still in the process of applying to. Originally, the deadline for the application to the state was in September. they have extended that deadline to December. However, at the district level, we haven't changed anything on our scope. We're still moving forward with our original timeline of trying to have this done in the August timeframe so that we may hopefully start seeing these funds in September. At this point, what we did, and I have provided this in my board packet, was we created an internal application that the district administrative team made allowable uses, a sheet of 2 or 3 pages of definite expenditures that are allowable with this money, so that there's no question on the back end when we get audited if we were supposed to be able to buy these things. So we sent this application out with all the stipulations to all the schools, departments, and charter schools, and we gave them an allocation. And I also told them, this is kind of a once in the school lifetime opportunity to get a bunch of additional funding to do these things. So shoot for the moon. Obviously, not everything's going to be paid for, but we want to get the most we can out of these principals and these teams at the schools as far as what they feel they need with this extra money. And I can tell you the applications were amazing. These principals and these teams at these schools put in a lot of time and effort, were very thoughtful in their applications. And I just want to mention that it was very delightful to read what they're looking for and what they're asking for, because everything that I saw was definitely focused towards learning loss from the last year. So as of right now, me and the grants department are finishing up looking at those applications. We're looking for duplicate items so that if one school is asking for something and another one's asked for some, us at the district level can make the appropriate purchase so that people aren't buying a bunch of random things that are the same. If there were, stipends or salaries involved, we want to make sure all those salaries are the same. If it's a certain position, nobody's getting paid differently, that it falls in line with our HR requirements and policies. So there are just some stuff at this level we need to tweak. And then once that's done, we will provide a summary of that to the board. And then once that gets approved, we'll move on and submit the application in August timeframe. Next is the capital reserve summary. What I did is I took the 10-year capital reserve plan, and I just kind of summarized it and put it in a sheet in my board report. I just wanted to highlight kind of the construction items, the non-construction items, what we had slated for this year, what we did, and what's moving forward. I'd like to come back to a point where maybe we have another discussion here over the summer or when school starts about having a plan to get some of these projects, the bids out as soon as possible. Because what I'm finding just being here in the last 6 months is it's taking 5 or 6 months for these things to actually get started. And it's no fault of really anyone. It's just considering materials. Contractors are already booked out. And so I want to make sure that we have a good plan in the beginning of the year so that we can focus on what you guys want to do for the year. And I can try to get those in motion so that by January timeframe, 70% of those projects are complete. And we're just looking at things we want to do for the rest of the year. Next, the rural funding. I just wanted to give you an update. Again, we got about $390,000 for the rural funding Proposition EE from legislation this last year. Preliminary amounts show that we're going to be slated to receive about $472,000 next year. Again, we won't see that till later in the spring next year, but I just wanted to again provide that's kind of what we're anticipating for HB 21-1427. Okay, mill levy implications. So I had to reach out to a couple of different finance directors across the state to really try to get an understanding of how this is going to affect us. And from what I can get, and I have to give thanks to Aurora Public Schools in Littleton, they really helped me out here. What happened was when this bill was passed, essentially, and I'm just going to break it down to the way I understood it, about a decade ago, legislation passed a bill that set property tax percentages versus residential and commercial at a certain rate. And now they're looking back at that and they're saying we kind of messed up that calculation and property tax rates should actually be set higher than they are, the percentage. So there's a certain period of time, and it looks like for our districts about 9 years, about $1 million a year for 9 years, that the county is going to enforce. And we're going to see about an extra $1 million a year in property taxes from this bill.
school is or
The
the county?
school, the school is,
School.
the school will. I will try to, I mean, keep you up to date as much as possible on that part of it. We recertify our mills in December. So I will definitely stay on top of it. But again, at the end of the day, we're going to see a slight increase in how much revenue we get in property taxes in the next 9 years until something changes.
So it's a mandatory meal increase. for
Correct.
the county level.
Right.
Is that right?
And then lastly, I just wanted to give a huge thanks to Lori, Carol, and Jamie, and Jeanette, she's not here. It's been great to work with Lori the last 6 months. I've had a few different superintendents in my little tenure, and I definitely learned a lot, and I appreciate everything that this team's done and kind of set the new administration team up for going into next year. Carol, I don't think I've met anybody that can multitask like Carol, so it could be
Good at it, isn't
a loss there, but I appreciate everything that I've learned from her in the last 6 months as well. And Jamie, every time I see you call, it still feels like I'm getting called to the principal's office. I really appreciate everything you've helped me through here and explaining kind of the history of the Capitol and the amazing safety plan that you've set up for this district and how well you've taken care of it, how much pride you have in this. So I appreciate that, Jamie. So with that, I stand for any questions. We'll, a couple of action items we can discuss with you, but any questions?
No questions.
No questions.
Thanks for that very easily to understand report. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Nicely done, Kyle.
Board requests and reports. Tammy's not here to give her legislative. Staff reports, I'm sorry. Nancy, I was gonna skip you again. That's all right. You know me. You call me every day. Don't forget me, Sherry.
Good evening, board. Of course, the last board meeting, I brought to you a petition to bring your attention to the need to look at the elementary school day. So I'm going to reread that letter. The subject is elementary teaching planning time and why it's so critical to the education of our students. Now that the 5-day calendar has been approved for the 2021-2022 school year, let's relook at those elementary hours. As it is now, the 5 to 11-year-old students are in school for 8 hours, walking in with the staff. That's correct, 8 hours, 7:20 to 7:10. The elementary teaching staff does not have adequate time to plan or get materials ready for students without also having students in their classrooms to supervise. And those of you who have small children, you can't pretend that they're not there because you have to engage, and rightly so. Why do you think the community sees educators' cars at the school way after the 8-hour day and on weekends? It's to make up for the inadequate time for planning and looking at student work during the school day. And if you don't see those cars after an 8-hour day, it's because the teachers are taking the work home, or now they must have second jobs because our district's wages are not competitive. Yes, we have dedicated staff who care really about the best education for our students. And we know that our district is looking at ways we can recruit and retain staff. And one way that has not been thoroughly investigated is elementary planning time. Even though our Colorado TEL surveys, which are teaching and learning conditions in Colorado, have listed that teacher planning as a top priority, as well as our most recent teacher perception survey taken right here in our district in April, that teachers do not have enough time, planning time, and we as a district haven't addressed it adequately. Our proposal this evening is to have a group to address this issue before school starts in August. One proposal, one idea, no elementary students on school grounds until 8 o'clock, dismiss at 3. That's 7 hours. And yes, we have looked into the elementary required contact hours, and it's still more than the 990. Staff could arrive then at 7:30 so they can get materials ready for all the subjects without students in their room. And then 1 hour daily for planning, because students can go to other classes at that time, music and PE, etc. And we want to reemphasize on that early release day that we want to keep one of those days a month for the teachers and no district or school agendas. And we brought this issue up in June so that it could thoroughly be investigated before school starts in August. And I'm glad that you have added the issue to the discussion items this evening, because it is very important. We just talked about some of the things that are happening and trying to retain some of our educators and many other things. And we have so many things to look at, but one simple thing should be the plan the time for elementary teachers. So I look forward to the discussion later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more staff that I'm missing? Okay, board requests and reports. Tammy usually gives her legislative report at this time, but she's not here. Grandson's birthday. Kathy resolution, and I asked to put that on because I don't know how the board feels. So I want to just bring it up. You guys can kind of chew on it and let me know at our next meeting. But I brought it up with Sherry Wrench, who's our CASB director, executive director, that I feel like rural schools are underserved with CASB. And I can say, I read the board reports because I'm a director, and everything is aimed towards Denver and Boulder. There's a few Colorado Springs and Pueblo lingering there, but basically it's the high urban areas. We don't have the representation. When Ken was there, I'm giving you history, but when Ken was there, he added 5 at-large directors. And they were all from Denver and Boulder. Now, the reasoning it was sound because they have more students than we do. And so he felt like that would make it a little more equal. But I feel like that looking back at it, that it's not equal. We're not being represented fairly. So I was talking to Sherry and she said, well, what do you propose I do? And I'm going, well, now that you ask, I propose that as the at-large directors' time's up, they just go off and we don't replace them. That way we're not getting rid of anybody. But Ken wrote it in policy that they were on there. So we have to change it through resolution. So do you guys and girls and boys and whatever, do you want to write a resolution to do this? Or do you want to just let it go?
Well, I think a resolution would, at least we'd have a voice and let them know that it's an issue in our little corner down here.
How many at-large people are there?
5.
Yeah,
I think we should voice an opinion that, I think that we did this with CHASA. Let's keep those people on, but at least 3 of those at-large people have to be from rural area schools. But
The reason they were put on as at-large is because of the population, the student population in the urban areas.
and I understand that. I mean, I remember fighting that issue all the time. But I think that there should be something out there that protects those rural schools. It's not just us. It's
No, it's across the
RIDE
board.
and
Well, and when I talked to Sherry, she told me that if all of the rural schools came to the legislative meeting in October, then, and they voted for our resolution, it would win. That we have more representatives, but because we feel like the underdog, we don't participate.
Right.
And as a director, I mean, you guys know me, I'm vocal, but I'm just one of maybe 4 directors on there that's from a rural school. The rest of them have a rural school in it, but they are mostly urban. So I don't know how you feel. I suggest that we think about it. And if you want to do that, then in July, you put it on as a action item in July. And then we can vote on it. And if you want us to, then if you decide to do this, then I would contact CASB and they will give me the names of the rural schools to contact to have them at that meeting.
So you are wanting a resolution in place as an action item?
Well,
Correct.
I can write the resolution, but I would, so I could have the resolution in place and then you guys can vote on it or not. I get with Cassidy's legal department and they can help me write one. Jack's really good at writing
Better get on.
things like that.
It's another short time.
He's been phenomenal in doing things like that, so I may get with Jack at some point.
Sure.
And put something together. And then we'll bring it back as an action item. Okay? Is that all right with you guys? And then you can vote no, or you can vote yes.
Question about the rural directors. What's the representation on the west side of the divide?
Usually there's someone from Pagosa, Durango, usually Durango, Cortez, Mancos, Dolores, sometimes Silverton, Bayfield sometimes. Duck Creek never sends anybody. So
That's like you're the director of this.
I'm the director as well, yes.
Well,
And so then that's what I was going by. I'm the director of Pagosa, Durango, Bayfield, Silverton, Cortez, Duck Creek, Ignacio, and Ignacio's always there. Ignacio, Mancos.
so I guess that's my
There's
question is more about like CASB director representation of rural districts, because there's rural
Mhm.
on the eastern, like Denver and the Front Range, but that's a different type of rural than.
Well, yeah,
you know,
and
than over
they are,
here.
and their directors cover one school district.
Yeah.
So, here, when I visit the schools, which I do, I go around, I have a lot of miles. Whereas they have to go across the street down a mile. So that's important aspect, yes. So anyway, I will bring it back if that's okay with you guys. And then CASB also, the regional meeting will be here. And they asked the high school chefs to do the meal, but they were unable to. Yeah. So they sent me a list of restaurants and I'm kind of researching to see what they are. So it will be here, I think, October 12th, but I'm not sure. And then we will have our legislative meeting in October also, and that will be for conference.
Is that gonna be, are you looking for a caterer for that meeting?
Yes. Somebody, Deb, who was it that you recommended?
Motivate.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that.
Oh.
That,
Yeah.
and so I checked around and I heard nothing negative about them.
Oh, she
So-
does. Yeah.
So I
she
just
does.
sent it to was it Connie and asked her, I said, I've heard nothing but good things. So that's probably who we'll be doing.
That's what we do for OCs.
So anyway, so I'd also like for you to be able in July to tell Deb if you're going to be able to go to the legislative meeting. Tammy will be able to sit in. She'll be the one that will be doing the voting and stuff. But the in-services are phenomenal. And also make sure you make plans for, and I'm saying this assuming everybody's still going to be on the board in December, with the exception of Jack. You're not going to be here in December, like.
Nope.
Look at that smile.
In Colorado Springs the first weekend. And I'm going to have it at Granby that weekend too, I hope. So anyway, that is all I have for reports and requests. Anybody else? Okay. Moving right along, we are now, citizens address the board. You'll have 3 minutes. If you are on Zoom, we are not doing chat. If you want to speak, and I made that comment last meeting, and it was also on our page, correct? That you have to be here in person to make a comment to the board. So is there anybody out here that would like to address? Yes, ma'am. You got.
Hi, my name is Susan Kenneth. I live at 511 South Cedar Street in town. And I'd like to address the issue of the Rainbow Club. Now, as far as I know, what people have been telling me is true. So if I say something that you think doesn't sound right, I'd appreciate it if you correct me.
Excuse me just a moment, ma'am. We don't discuss it with you, so.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right, although I disagree with what this club stands for, this is still America. And these people have every right to believe what they believe. You know, I don't have any right to tell them what to do any more than they have a right to tell us what to do. But the problem is that they don't have the right to lure these kids into this club if they aren't following the rules. And it's my understanding that they should have had parents' permission to do this, and they didn't get that. And this really upsets me. I think that if I was a parent, that would be something to me that would make me want to take my kid out of the school altogether. Because parents entrust schools to take care of their kids and have their best interests there. And so somehow the ball was dropped on this, and I don't know if it was because the club didn't know the rules or just that they just did what they wanted to and didn't tell the parents. And then the administration, teachers, etc., didn't do anything about that. So all I want is for there to be some accountability, because these kids don't know what they're getting into. That's why they have parents. So I'd appreciate it if something could be done to, you know, take care of this issue. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Susan Mikes. I'm an M-CSD parent. I've been super involved with Mr. Hopness on the softball field, and they're all still at practice. But I'm here to say thank you. They are so excited. This dirt we got is amazing. I know it's crazy, but I have learned so much about dirt. We got the best of the best that's out there. Next week, we have a gentleman who will be coming to blade the field, and he's bringing his transit, I'm using the right word, to level the field, level the outfield. We'll be putting in a new outfield fence, and we should be ready to go by the middle of July. So the girls are very excited. Thank you very, very much. We pressure washed the, no school principal isn't here, but this is something to think about. We pressure washed the inside of those dugouts last night. They were pretty gross. You might want to ketchup, mustard, soda. It was really yucky. They're kids. They, you know, they can hide in that visitor dugout. So it might be something just from a safety point of view. Maybe they might want to think about it. But the dugout, one dugout's painted. We'll be painting the other one tomorrow. They're thrilled. We have lots of pictures that we'll share with you. Girls got painted, walls got painted. It was fun. So thank you very, very much.
You're welcome to come to our next meeting and do a student presentation.
I will bring them.
I must add that dirt looks so good, I wanted to taste it.
That's
It is,
kind of
it is
scary.
beautiful.
That is nice for.
Hey, would anybody else like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
I'm actually addressing the board on your curriculum tonight. There is still no access to your 7th grade curriculum on the new English and all of that. I was one of the very few parents that came in to look at the modulars and see what you guys was proposing to teach. Since then, I went onto the website because you can't take those home, you can't do the proper research and stuff with them because they're limited. Why? I went onto the website, there's multiple conflicts of what I've seen in the office and what I was told by the office on these. None of the novels is acceptable. They are critical race theory novels. We do not want our children segregated. We do not want them taught hate. It is not the school nor the school board's place to teach us that, teach our children that. I was told that it had already been accepted by you guys and that they just needed parent feedback. How do we give an educated feedback if we do not have access to the curriculum? I get the feeling that the schools are trying to sneak the critical race theory in, just as they did the sexuality through the lunch bunch. It seems our schools are taking the liberty of teaching whatever they want to our children. They've shown no regards of including the school board nor the parents. That was proven by a 4-year run of the lunch bunch with no knowledge from the school board or the parents. No permission slips. Again, we demand transparency. We feel we have been misled by the school and the school board members. Last meeting, we were told that the lunch bunch was not even on the agenda. However, the letter that was presented by Lance McDaniel that got signed and the supporters that showed up in the hallway was very obvious that it was a part of the agenda. We want transparency. You are in charge of our children that we trust you with. If we cannot trust to send our children to school, what do you want us to do? We trust you guys wholeheartedly to make sound decisions for our children. We trust the principals. We trust the teachers. And so far, we have had a 4-year-old club that has had no parent participation, no parent permission. Our children has been submitted to dangerous people. I'm sorry, I'm going to use him as an example. I do not want Silverton White Horse, who is a very big part of the LGBTQ community, around my child. He's a loaded cannon. He's gonna hurt somebody. And so will Robin now.
Ma'am, I am going to respond to you in one aspect. If you'd like to speak to Mr. Park, he is our curriculum director.
Okay.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak?
I think everything that has already been said that I want to say, Minnie Nelson wrote in. And if Mr. Carr would be willing to step aside after the meeting and speak with us, I can probably go ahead and eliminate what left over what I was going to say.
Okay.
Anybody else? Your hands up? Yes. I couldn't see, but I saw a finger move.
So I just wanted to introduce myself because I haven't been here in person for a while, but my name's Austin. I'm a writer, grew up here in Cortez, and I'm going to be doing some coverage of the school board coming up. And I will be talking about some things that are involving the community in my reading. So I just wanted to say hello again to the folks on the board who know that from high school. And hello to also the people who I've spoken to briefly for some of the stories I've written. So I just wanted to put a name to the face, show that, here I am. Good to see you guys again. And, yeah, just wanted to introduce myself. So my name's Austin.
What was your last name?
Coke.
It's great to have you back on the education front, Austin.
It is, thank you.
Here I am for the moment.
Is there anybody else? Okay. Mr. Parr, I'm sorry I put you to the wolves so early on in your life, but welcome to school.
Yeah.
Lisa's not here.
Is there anything?
Probably.
The last I had heard was that she was going to show up.
So, okay. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. So if you'd like to go to the restroom or do whatever, please feel free. thought I'd talk to you on Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
We're back, we're back. Carol. Thank you. Okay, this is, Lori's retirement thing. And so, but we got you a little more home. Wow. And Tammy is the one that picked this out. Well, no, actually, she kind of picked out 3 or 4 and then let us vote on it. So that is from the entire board because we love you. And I just want to, I want to make a statement here. Lori and I have not agreed on everything. And quite vocally, we disagree. But I've got to tell you that through all of this, I have never doubted her honesty. Monetarily, financially, and I know that her heart's always been in the right place. We haven't always agreed where it was, but it's always been in the right place. So enjoy it.
Well, this is very thoughtful, board, and just know that I'll be one of your largest champions in letting everyone know the dedication it takes to serve on the board and moving education, the well-being of our students forward for a better generation. So very thoughtful. Wow. That's beautiful.
Hawaiian glass.
It's on this side.
Oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. It says Lori Hoffman, 27 years of service, Montezuma-Cortez School District, every student, every day. Oh, this is awesome. And when I'm done using it as a wine glass, for those of you that don't know, I have perched stairs in my house, but this is going to look absolutely beautiful.
Good.
So thank you. This is very, very thoughtful. Okay, ready?
It'll take more than one vote. Later. I do know the time to buy, that's right.
So thank you very much, Lori.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is our consent calendar. Have you seen the list? It is grants.
You can find the other calendar right before.
Yeah, like the fourth calendar, yeah, here it is. Okay. Has everybody looked at it? Know what they're voting on? Yeah, we need to hear a motion. I hear a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Jack, seconded by Chris. Discussion?
I just had a question on a couple of them that didn't have any monetary amounts behind them.
Alex.
There's a
They're
couple of them, I was just curious.
They're both, they're pairs that are up.
Well, normally we have still.
We do.
Is that is due to a new person type?
I'm sorry?
Oh, okay.
I think that's learning error.
Oh, okay, okay.
Did your question answered?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like those amounts to be
Email.
provided, because I can go to my office and get them.
Oh, not right now, maybe just, whenever you have time.
Sure. I have a question just as a board member. Why did we not see the transfers and all of those people that transfer around? on this.
They've already been hired. This is, the board is, accepts hiring recommendations and the board accepts resignations and retirements. But those individuals have already been hired by the board and they are transferred internal.
Oh,
Do they fill out a whole different contract though? It depends, you know, oftentimes it's lateral moves in terms of, between someone, the majority of the time it's lateral moves, so. Teacher converted, something like that. I would say majority of the time it's lateral moves. Occasionally someone will apply to go to a different position, but that's not the norm.
We have
They
a
change
transfer
grade
request form that we fill out with all the information on it, so we do have it internally.
I just think it would be something that would be good information. Maybe I'm wrong.
Then where would you, we
Could
could
be on the
definitely,
consent calendar.
do that, it just can't be on the.
Yeah, it wouldn't be on this, it would just be an additional,
HR report.
yeah, yeah. maybe
And
an
that's why I
HR
was thinking,
report.
you should just leave it in the HR report. Okay. Any more discussion? Other question?
Flaherty?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Schulenmeyer?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Right.
Okay, the next is our resolution. Jack, you have
Let's see if it's. I don't see it.
that? There we go. Would you pass this to? Another one.
Alrighty, thank you. Okay, this is appropriation resolution FY 2021-22. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of Montezuma County School District RE1 in Montezuma County, that the amount shown below in the following schedule be appropriated to each fund as specified in the adopted budget of the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2021 and ending June the 30th, 2022. Okay, so fund and then the appropriation amount, there's a bunch of these. The general fund is $19,806,208.69. Excuse me. And it's broken down by technology, $392,550. Pupil activity fund, $534,004.05. Insurance reserve fund, $262,000. Preschool fund, $623,910.19. The special reserve funds are food school fund is $1,147,700. The government designated purpose grant fund is $14,086,606. The pupil activity special revenue fund is $556,330.93. The bond redemption fund is $1,423,527. The capital reserves, capital projects is $634,000. The internal service risk-related activity fund is $3,693,654. The total appropriation is $14,120,862.86. So that's it.
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by Stacy. Any discussion? Cal's here to answer.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Paul. Aye. Noyes,
Aye.
Schuler,
Aye.
Wells,
Aye.
Wright,
Hey, a resolution to use beginning fund balance.
Okay, now this one is the same, these two are the same.
Okay.
Okay, whereas CRS 22-4-105 states that a budget duly adopted pursuant to this article shall not provide for expenditures, internal transfers, or reserves in excess of available revenues and beginning fund balance, whereas Board of Education may authorize the use of a portion of the beginning of the fund balance in the budget stating the amount to be used for the purpose for which the expenditure is needed, and the director's plan to ensure that the use of beginning fund balance will not lead to an ongoing deficit. Whereas the Board of Education has determined that the beginning of the fund balance is, if the fund balances in the state of Colorado are sufficient to allow one-time expenditures, and action will not lead to an ongoing deficit. Now therefore be it resolved in accordance with CRS 22-44-105, the Board of Education authorizes the use of designated amount of the FY 2021 beginning fund balance for the following funds. Be it resolved that the use of this portion of these fund balances for the purposes set forth above will not lead to ongoing deficit. And that's it.
Do I hear a motion to accept the beginning fund balance?
I'll move to accept the beginning fund balance.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Sharon Noy, seconded by Cody. Is there any discussion? Call for question?
Flaherty,
Aye.
Paul. Aye. Noyes,
Aye.
Schuler,
Aye.
Wells,
Aye.
Wright.
Okay, next item is approve our CASB membership dues for $12,535 and policy support for $17,050.
I make a motion to accept that.
Your second?
Second.
Motion made by Stacy, seconded by Chris. This is, at the end of the year, for new members, CASB will put out a report and it will tell how many times we've utilized them. But you can call CASB for free and for legal advice, and they will give it to us. That is in these dues. Every policy that we go over, they have reviewed and make sure that it fits the law so that we don't make a mistake. So I feel like it's well worth the money. So just to give you the heads up on that. Was there any questions during the discussion? Call the question.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Paul. Aye. Noyes.
Aye.
Schuler,
Aye.
Wells,
Aye.
Wright.
The next item is the calendar. We discussed having a 2-week calendar. Phyllis made it for us before she left. So if you will notice, normally we do not have a meeting in July. However, since we have an incoming superintendent, I think that we should meet and give her the benefit of getting to know us before we hit the road running with school starting.
May I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Um,
You know, let's I need to hear a motion.
Sorry.
I started too, so, but do I hear a motion? Yes.
I make a motion.
Second?
I'll second, I guess.
Okay, Stacy made a motion to accept it, seconded by Cody. Okay, Lori, go for it.
And I remember our conversation centered around this, and I am pretty excited actually about the board having a work session with a board meeting. I think that will just work very well. However, in July 6th, the 5th is a district holiday because the 4th of July is on the weekend. And so that would allow the incoming superintendent basically 2 days before convening with the board.
So we could do away with the work session and just do the regular meeting? Board pleasure? What do you guys think?
I'm fine with that.
So would you like to change your motion?
I changed my motion to only have one board meeting the month of July on the 20th of July.
Cody, you seconded it, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'll second, yeah.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on this?
Can we change, is there board business in July, or is it just get to know? Would it be fine to just have a work session on the 20th?
There'd be business. I think it will be a very, very short one, but there will be some business.
It would be nice if the board could approve the consent calendar for hires, so the contracts can be generated.
And I asked Deb to put a few things on that calendar. I don't remember what it was, but.
I don't remember it this time.
But yeah, it won't be a long meeting because we generally don't have one and there's no school. So, but we might be adding something from our discussion on or something on there as an action item. That'd be the only thing.
I won't be available that day.
You will not, are you be on Zoom?
No, I won't.
Okay with me.
My husband's having major surgery.
You told me that already. Yeah. And so, and I gotta suggest to the board, family comes first. We're in this for family, so Cody looks at his watch and says, can I go home then?
What?
I said, you looked at your watch and said, can I go home to my kids?
I'm in a group text right now.
So anyway, any more discussion on this? So the motion is going to be to skip the work session on the 6th and do a regular meeting on the 20th. Is that correct?
I was looking at December though. I'm trying to decide,
Okay.
that's our vacation time?
It is. I did notice that.
I didn't know if we wanted to maybe condense December's meeting to just one meeting that month. I mean, I don't know, like,
It's for pleasure.
some have children that might want to be out of town.
So maybe like on December 14th as an example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does the board think?
Yeah.
December 14th? Is that better for you guys?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay,
Would that be a regular or work session?
regular. And in November, we're having our regular meeting the 16th. Will that be time for our votes to be, our election to be certified?
I would think that those would happen on the 9th.
I think so.
Because we'll have to have our election of officers to go to Castle. So that will hold okay for November 16th. They have like 2 weeks to certify it.
Right.
The state has to certify.
Right.
Yeah. It's the state. Debbie's gonna be an expert on it next month.
So I'm just thinking logistically, would it make sense if the board does approve the 14th, but as a backup, potentially the 7th with the certifying once, and I'll get with Deb and we can look at the days.
Well,
Or move the 16th to the 30th.
I think that would be better because the 7th is after Gatsby.
Sure.
So I guess we can approve the calendar like it is, but we may have to change November.
That's what I.
Okay? Which is easy, we can do that, it's as long as you vote on it. Okay, is there anything else on here that you guys see? Is that the last day?
The 18th is pretty early.
The 18th? Okay. I just saw the 30th on there and I was going,
30th is just a little more.
okay. All right, anything else? Do you know what we're voting on, Deb?
Are we adding December to the motion? Or the change in?
We're changing it to the 14th.
Okay.
And just one meeting on the 14th,
Regular session.
regular. And we're doing away with the 6th. Okay. Anything else? Okay, let's call for the question.
30?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Schmidtmeyer?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. So if you could send that as a clean copy in our next update.
We'll post it on the website too. We'll get it posted on the website too.
Okay. The next is our district accreditation contract. Do I hear a motion to accept this?
I'll make a motion to accept the district accreditation contract.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by Sherry. You want to share with us, Lori?
So board, as I had mentioned in my superintendent's report, what the board will be approving tonight is the state's accreditation for the last accreditation rating we had in 2019-20, because 2020-21 was a accreditation pause, as they say. And so this accreditation rating will go for 18 months, with knowing that there'll be some revisions as they work on the policy revisions at the state level. So is there any questions I can address?
Nope. Okay, let's call for the question.
30?
Aye.
Paul? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Schmidtmeyer?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Right.
Aye. Capital reserve for $99,994.
Okay, this is,
No, we have to read it first.
this is capital reserve request to the school board. The funds available are $161,829.41. The amount requested is $99,994. The project description is a roof 1985 classroom addition at Mesa Elementary. It was identified by a needs assessment. The rationale for the request: original 1985 roof has exceeded warranty period and must be replaced due to exceedingly poor condition. Business office confirmed funds are available, approved by Jamie Hockness, 6/15/2021, whereas the administration has need for an additional $99,994 to re-roof Mesa Elementary 1985 classroom addition. Now therefore be resolved that $99,994 is authorized for expenditure from the capital reserve fund.
I hear a motion to accept this.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
motion was made by Chris, seconded by Jack. Discussion, Mr. Hopkins?
Yes, Laura, this is the 1985 edition of Mesa Elementary School's roof. Therefore, it's 36 years old. And no, yeah, 36 years old. And it has ballast on it, which means that's at 1 inch, inch and a half rock. The danger if that starts leaking, you'll never find where the leak is, especially in the winter. But obviously, it's exceeded its lifetime capacity and needs replaced. And the district has gone to the white PTO membrane instead of black. So that's what we'll be putting on as a roof.
Is this gonna be, because I see that there weren't any bids or anything, is this something done in-house or do we have somebody that's gonna do that?
It's the, yes, the contractor will do it.
Which contractor?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's T&L or Jim Carrick.
Okay. One we've worked with before though?
Yes.
Okay.
And they'll be giving bids, correct?
We already have.
Yeah, so it's already
Yeah.
posted in the bids.
Okay. So, I mean, we've already accepted a bid?
No,
We haven't accepted it, and we won't unless this is approved.
Okay.
We've selected one that we'd like to have.
Okay, but it's for the $99,994. Okay.
Any more questions? Call for the question.
Flaherty?
Aye.
Hall? Aye. Noise?
Aye.
Schindler?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Wright?
Aye. Next is our capital reserve for $15,114.
Okay, the funds available are $176,943.41. The amount requested is $15,114. The project description is transportation yard light. It's a health and safety issue. The rationale for the request is eliminating fueling station area at transportation yard by running power and installing a pole with a light fixture. The business office confirmed funds are available. The project is coordinated with maintenance and IT departments approved by Jamie Harkness, 6/15/2021. Whereas the administration has need for an additional $15,114 to install yard lighting transportation. Now therefore be it resolved that $15,114 is authorized for expenditure from the capital reserve fund.
You have a motion to accept this?
I'm going to accept the request for $15,114 for a transportation light pole.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Sherry Noyes, seconded by Chris. Any discussion?
Type of pole you put in? What type of pole?
It's an electric pole that they're going to put in. They have to transfer from the transportation building. They're down to where our buses are. There's no light in that far in. And they have to get some power down there and light. And we'll also be able to put those cameras in down in that area.
It will be a metal pole with a concrete or wood pole or?
I'm not sure.
It's been badly needed.
Yeah.
It is. It's a hazard with no light down there.
Especially with the traffic that we're putting more on
Yeah,
the street.
Right, with the new highway, there's a lot more.
It is a big yard, and those buses put up a lot of visual blockage with the lights coming from the building. So this will be down in that area, so it should help tremendously.
Any more discussion? Call for the question.
Flaherty?
Aye.
Hall? Aye. Noise?
Aye.
Schindler?
Aye.
Wells?
Aye.
Wright?
Capital reserve for $45,000.
Okay, the funds available are $61,835.41. The amount requested is $45,000. The project description is a backhoe purchase. It was identified by a needs assessment. Rationale was purchase of a backhoe for the facilities department would eliminate rental of like equipment and maximize efficiency of the department. multiple bids to be provided. Business office confirmed funds are available. No permits required, approved by Jamie Hockness, 6/22/2021. Whereas the administration has need of an additional $45,000 to purchase a backhoe, now therefore be it resolved that $45,000 is authorized for expenditure from the Capital Reserve Fund.
Your motion to accept this?
Motion to accept capital reserve request of $45,000 for backhoe purchase.
Second?
I second it.
Motion made by Chris, seconded by Stacy. Discussion.
Board, I received notification today that the bid actually came in smaller, which is exciting. So I'm not quite sure how, Sherry, you would like to proceed forward with it. What was the amount, Jamie?
The amount with the Kubota tractor with the attachments is $31,827.17. We also got a bid for a John Deere tractor that came in right at $33,000. I'll let you see Dan, so just pull the cords. And basically a little bit of history on this. We had a backhoe on the capital reserve plan 2 or 3 years ago, and we took it off when we were refinancing some things. And the other day, Chris called me about an issue, so to speak, with maintenance, because he was drilling a hole for the scoreboard for the soccer club. And our maintenance department had no way to lift any steel or anything. So he talked a little bit about a boom truck with a crane, and I mentioned that in the board report. So I went and talked to Ray Lopez and also Sean and Philip and said, what is it you guys need the most? And by far they said this tractor with the attachments. They don't have any backhoe whatsoever. I see them out there digging ditches by hand. I think it will help quite a bit. And this tractor also has a couple of attachments. It has a coastal digger, I think a 9-inch bit on it. It also has a big blade that goes on the back. And then Ray printed these off. It also shows the attachments that they can get. We do have a brush hog that he said he thought it would fit fine, but with that being said, I think down the road, another thing that's really important for maintenance, besides maybe one of those used mechanical trucks that you've probably seen with the crane on it, for lifting engines, I think that's what you're referring to. That could be used, but also like a used boom truck, like Empire Electric has, or probably Chris has too at his job site, where a person could get in a bucket and you lift it up to the second floor. For example, our electrician, when he was putting the lights up on the side of the gym at Mesa, Kemper was on an extension ladder and he needed 2 hands to do it. So it is a safety issue. That's not on for tonight, but if you approve this, that would be great. They would really be thrilled about it. I think it'll help. I think those other 2 things I just discussed are hugely important, especially the boom. And I can pass that off to Kyle. I know I'll take care of it, won't you?
So I will.
Okay, so you're asking us to vote on a tractor instead of a backhoe?
It's a tractor with a backhoe attachment.
Which do you think's the best one, the Kubota?
That's the one Mr. Lopez liked the most. So I would go on his recommendation.
And so that one's
And
like,
it was cheaper.
And it was cheaper.
It's cheaper and has 2 attachments. The John Deere was just the backhoe attachment, didn't have the blade.
So we can have you withdraw your motion and make a new one?
I agree.
Because I thought we had to sign them.
We could discuss that, because there's some things on here that I can see that
Except by
could
grants and no
add
one's
back.
grants.
Because like, you know, we don't really have a lot of raw land property, so I think it would be really important to make sure that this has sod tires on it, not your general, because those are just gonna tear up every bit of grass that you drive across. And then do big tires that are, you know, made, you could use that that tractor on football field. You
Yeah.
can use it on the baseball field, but if you have general use tires on it.
Yeah, it's a four-wheel drive, I know
But
what
it
you're
was
saying.
the tires would destroy it.
Lawn frame, yeah.
I don't see, usually that would be an option, and I don't see that. So I mean, I don't think it would be something that would put you over the initial request.
If
But
we need
then, and
that,
then also, do you have a trailer? How are you gonna move them?
we already have a trailer.
We've got a double axle trailer, it should be fine.
So we cannot add tires without the cost. We're voting on the amount. So,
Maybe have it
so he can
back.
bring it back,
Okay.
bring it back for different tires.
There's differences, I'll bring some back, whatever the difference is.
You want,
I was just saying, if there is a differential in cost that we need extra, I can bring that back to the board.
so if we vote for the 31,871.17 for the Kubota, then the extras that you want, you can just give us another supplement.
Correct.
Yeah, next month.
Okay.
And I will bring that up with Mr. Lopez because of this is talking about is, that's like our little mule that Bobby Architect loves. You know, it has the gnarly tires on it, but they have like golf tires on it now. Those tracks.
And, you know, if they may do a straight across trade too, so.
Yeah.
It could be
Well, I
nice.
think they make some nice tires that are, I know exactly what you're talking about, that aren't like an ATV.
Because we've got a good football field with big tracks, we don't want.
Does it come with any kind of warranties?
Oh, yeah, that's
Brand new.
Okay, like so many hours or so many years or?
Yeah, it's, I think 3 years, pretty standard, I believe.
Hey, so, Stacy and Cody, you guys would have to withdraw your motion and your second.
Okay, so I made a motion, so
Oh, you made it? Okay,
Yeah,
Chris.
so I'll withdraw it and
No, just
Oh,
one
just
motion
amend
at a
it?
time, just. You may amend it, you may amend it.
Okay, so I'd like to amend the motion for the approval of the $45,000 and have it reflect $31,827.16.
I have $31,871.17.
That's what I have.
I think it's on the second.
It's on the second page,
31,000.
800, you're right. It's
Yeah,
800. Okay. So, Stacy,
I second that amendment.
okay. Debbie, do you know what we're doing?
I think I'm with you.
You're with us? Okay. Any more discussion on this?
So just to clarify, and this was right, this will be for the exact price of the bid, correct?
That is correct.
And I will also, if it's approved, I'll get a hold of Ray tomorrow morning and tell him we have to have the tires changed out. And go from there. And if it costs more, then
Then I'll bring us a supplemental budget for it.
And I just have a quick question. Do we know how long it'll take? I mean, I don't know if, you're talking about the safety issue, like it'll replace like the ladders and whatnot, but have we ever had to rent this equipment before? And do we know like how long it'll take before we pay for this in lieu of possibly renting? Or do we know what we've spent in the past?
One of the things that when I talked to Ray a little bit about it is obviously renting over a period of time, you can make that up. But what the issue is when we go to rent, sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 weeks out before
Right,
we
you
get
can't
the
get it.
specific equipment we need. That's,
So I just curious.
Yeah.
So where is this at?
it's in Gym Village.
Oh, okay, so to add that, okay. That
And
was-
there is a $7,000 governmental discount. You will see $7,263. No, that's not it. It's
Source well discount.
in here somewhere. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, source well discount, 2/3, 3/4 of the way down, 7,256. That's a governmental discount,
Okay,
which is nice.
Nice, yeah.
yeah. Good.
Okay, thank you.
Let's call for questions.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Paul. Aye. Noyes.
Aye.
Schindemeier.
Aye.
Wells.
Aye.
Right.
Aye. No, we're not.
Yeah, I actually,
We're not.
have that question. I would say at this point, it needs to be put on the next board agenda.
Yes.
Because it's not even.
The supplemental budget for childcare counselor.
Grants.
Because it's not on
Yeah,
our
like-
agenda, so it needs to go back. Thank you, Jen. I thought it was all down here,
Yeah,
because I kept flipping through everything going, no,
and I know I haven't previewed it, and my assumption is Kyle has not yet. So we'll go on the July board.
right? So the next item is our policy adoption, second reading for JKD, JKER, JKD, JKE, GBGM. Is there a motion to accept these for the second reading? Chris made a motion to accept it. Stacy seconded it. Have there been any changes made? So it is the
Um, The staff discretionary leave does reflect the request that the administrator may have be able to waive the number of days.
So number of days that would
Yeah,
do it.
the, let me find it. A school administrator, director, or supervisor may waive the discretionary leave requirements for emergency.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
comments that we had, but that was the only adjustment to these policies.
okay. Any more discussion on this? Call for the question.
Flaherty.
Aye.
Paul. Aye. Noyes. Aye. Schindemeier.
Aye.
Wells.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, discussion items. You'll notice the first one is Board of Education venue. This is, again, I talked to Kyle about this. I've been kind of thinking this room was temporary when we moved in here. It was supposed to be like 2 years. And, right, you were here then, weren't you? It was 2 years.
Yes.
And it has been since then 12.
Yes, you are correct.
So, the air conditioning is really loud. The heater is non-existent at times. There's not much room. Right now, we don't have many people here, but last month there were a lot of people here. And we had to limit everything. So I propose that we move into the gym or community center, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and lower the ceiling because we can't go in there because it's too loud. Lower the ceiling, kind of clean it up and make that our boardroom. And I think this is a big deal. I did talk to Kyle a little bit about it, and did you give me the numbers?
I do. I actually put together some preliminary stuff, so I can go ahead and share that with everyone here. So after we talked, Ray and another maintenance personnel was down here, just so happened, and we measured the gym space to kind of get a rough idea of materials. Now, what I'm about to share is based off estimates of what I could find off square footage, so this is by no means exact. So when we were looking at the drop ceiling, to get it down to about 10 feet to where it's right under the windows, we're looking at about $23 per square foot. That gym is anywhere between 12 and 1,300 is what we approximated, so I just used 1,300 as the number. So as the drop ceiling raw materials doesn't include installation, we're looking at about $29,000, $30,000 just materials because of how much materials cost now.
29.
About 29,000 for raw materials for the drop ceiling. The install, we may be able to do it in-house, but if not, I went and got that amount too, and it's anywhere from $3 to $5 per square foot for install, so they're looking at about another $6,500 for install. Finish materials, and when I say finish, after everything's said and done, you're gonna want to primer and paint and do some of those things. Again, it's about $3 per square foot for primer and paint both, so we're looking at about another $8,000 for those materials. The flooring, if we decided to, because I know sound is gonna be an issue, that's why we're dropping the ceiling. If we wanted to carpet tile that area, it's about $4.50 per square foot, so about another $6,000 in carpet. And then kind of the add-ons that we're gonna need to consider, because it's not really set up appropriately, is you're gonna need some kind of sound system. And in the gym in particular, it's heating but not a cooling system, so we would need to do some things there. So a sound system is looking at about another $4,000 or $5,000. And then the airflow cooling, again, I'm just estimating 5,000-ish, somewhere on there. So total estimate for just that piece is $58,150, so right under $60,000. But keep in mind as well, this roof is on the capital reserve plan, and this roof estimate at that time was $144,000. So there is a leak in that gym, and if we were to do all that work, it would probably make sense to fix the roof so that we don't do that and it leaks further. With that being said, obviously, I just wanted to share that information, and the costs. Some alternative suggestions would be, let's look at the district and see if there's another place that may be 60, 70% set up for what we're looking for, and throw a little bit of money into that to make it set up. Or the other options would be to maybe cost share or work with the city or county to see if we can use their areas. But I definitely wanted to just provide that information to the board. It's a little bit more pricier, just given the situation of material being so expensive right now.
Materials have gone up dramatically and going up still.
I'd like to explore like a sound engineer or acoustic, where, because they make a lot of different materials that you can put reflective material up in those spaces where you don't have to necessarily drop the ceiling down and change the aesthetics of the gym. So there are other options.
That would be another option, exactly. Put those soundboards so that if there was some reason to have to change it back, it's not a big transition to move it back to the gym. But
I think that's a key thing in case at some point the district does decide that they want to reopen this up as a school. So I don't think any of that would affect it, except for the board that we had something that you could take back
Yeah,
up.
it was
It
more
would
time.
compromise it. Yeah.
So that doesn't compromise that gym was. Or at least it'd be considered.
So it's a lot more than I had expected. And we cannot use the ESSER funds for this because it's not enhancing education. Capital reserve, we're going to have to regrow. So how much would that take off, considering that we're having to regrow? It doesn't matter, because you're still going to have to remove it, because you're still going to have a leak. And it's still gonna
regardless,
make it.
even if we don't move forward turning that into a venue, we still need to replace it.
Yeah, we still have to replace it, so it doesn't matter.
That, use an auditorium in high school to be able to coordinate. It already has a sound system that has everything.
The only problem, and this is my issue with, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, I'm just gonna say it has everything it needs. Something that could be
Just before Phyllis left, she asked me to not have us feed in schools anymore, because it is so hard for the secretary to remember to pick up everything, pack it in their car, take it to the place that we're going to have our meeting, have it all back up and bring it, and then if you forgot something. So moving it to another building, I think is out of the question.
I think we tried it for a year.
Oh, we tried it more than once.
I think that we were welcomed. Yes. By each school, definitely. and probably got a few more people, but now that we can go to Zoom,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get more people through Zoom with each school.
And to be very honest, we don't know how long this COVID stuff's going to last because there's another spike. And it puts more work on our custodians. If we come in, then they have to go through and clean it before we come in and have to clean it afterwards. So,
Yeah, if we could entertain like other options, see if we can drive some of those costs down.
yeah,
there,
I mean,
that would be-
this is discussion, so just, whatever you can come up with. I just think that we need to, how professional is this look? But we spend our money on our kids. So I'm not complaining really, I'm just saying that it would be nice to have where there's more work. And it would really be nice to have a desk where you could lay something down here, a drawer to put your pencils and stuff in. It took me 4 trips today to get all my stuff.
Can we keep the curtains so like it starts?
Hey, yeah, well, I'll mention that we do it on the stage and, do a real thing. Yeah, we could do it and then they can just open it up. Presenting.
Well, if we had the sound system, people, even looking at the city hall, their ceiling's fairly high in there. They have, I don't know what kind of soundboards they have in there or whatnot, but you can open up a bigger venue and not have it near as elaborate.
Could we have
and make it work with the sound, a decent sound system?
Sound system with some strategically placed with like a sound engineer, district engineer, something to put those, so it isn't like Halloween.
Do a sound system, put those floor tiles down, and then of course have a microphone when people want to address the board.
And I think it can be done like,
that would be a lot
fraction
cheaper.
of the cost.
Right, the drop ceiling really
I
is
would not want to spend that kind of money on
So,
us.
it's 4,000 for the sound system and 6,000 for the carpets, and we're looking at 10,000. I like that a lot better.
I could definitely look at some options on, like you said, the soundboards or some kind of deafening agent. I'm not an expert in that. I'll have to look into that and find some different avenues and get some options.
Yeah, I'm sure Chris will work with you. He knows this stuff.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
don't mind me volunteering. But you've come up with some great ideas and save us a ton of money.
Yeah, it works for other places. You see it a lot more of these retrofitted old buildings. They keep the aesthetics.
That would be good. So could you do that for our next week,
Yes.
please? Are we overloading you?
No,
Now that your budget's finished, Bill?
Yep.
Is that our?
Just a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
We put carpeting in the hallway at the list last year and it didn't sound.
Good.
So something to consider.
That's good to know. Okay, so if you guys want to bring it back to our next board meeting, and then we'll just, Deb, would you put that down as a discussion item on our next board meeting, please? Okay. The next one is our student organization, JJA-2R. We talked about it at our last meeting, but we did not ever reach a conclusion. And from the comments that I have received on my emails, and then tonight, I think that we need to make a discussion and come to a conclusion. So, does anybody want to open this up or?
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to open it up. I still would like to second Chris's earlier comment. I understand that this is a concern to a lot of people, and it's an important issue, but to have this discussion at 10 o'clock at night
It's tough. That's why we're doing 2 meetings again, yeah.
is not my preference. Okay. This I want to read because I have given it some thought. Student organizations as constituted under policy JJA-2 provide an important opportunity for students to discuss issues they care about and to support each other. 2 such organizations are the Indigenous Club and the Rainbow Coalition, both of which are composed of students considered different. Sadly, children who are different from the majority often are bullied. Children who are bullied miss school and their education suffers. Unfortunately, the call for the elimination of the Rainbow Coalition as a school organization was the result of a misunderstanding. The coalition is comprised of a group of students and a volunteer staff monitor who meet over lunch in a middle school room to discuss issues of concern, including identity and being bullied. It was not to persuade any student to change his or her identity. We have been advised by our attorney that the Rainbow Coalition complies with all laws. In addition, when we became board members, we all took an oath to support the U.S. and Colorado Constitution and laws. We need to remember that when we are being asked to consider eliminating the open forum student organizations, since the only current groups that fall under this category are minority groups, it appears that we would be violating anti-discrimination laws by banning these organizations. My strong recommendations is that we retain the open forum student organization as described in JJA-2R for the betterment of the education of all our children. We talk about the importance of safe schools for all students. We say every student, every day. That includes students of color, Native American students, and LGBTQ students. Thank you.
I have a question about that. The group of us, the core members, who's the core members? Who signed it? It was the letter that came out, right? To our
What?
emails, what you just read?
No, this is a letter I just wrote.
Well, who's the core members? The group that, the core members,
Well,
are you talking about the school board then?
let's see, let me find I'm talking about here, the Rainbow Coalition is comprised of a group of students and a volunteer staff monitor who meet over lunch in a middle school room to discuss issues of concern, including identity and being bullied. It was not to persuade any student to change his or her identity.
But you said something about core members. It was after that.
I think it's board members.
Was it, did you say?
We've been advised by our
Oh, okay.
Board members.
Okay, board members. See, I misunderstood you.
board members.
We have been advised that if we cannot disband them unless we disband everybody. So unless they're a curriculum-based organization. So that's true. Now, I do take, one of the things you said, they are doing this to keep from being bullied, but I've had several middle school students, mainly male, come up and talk to me and tell me that they're being bullied to go to these classes and that they've been threatened to be beaten up. And they said that it's getting bad and that they're going to start studying up for themselves. So we've got a problem here. And I'm not saying, I'm sure they're being bullied too. It's a two-way street. We can't just say that the lunch bunch are being bullied. We can also say they're bullying the other kids also. But that's not really what we're here to do. That's a principal issue. And with what our lawyer has said, I don't know how you guys feel. We really haven't discussed this individually. Do you
So
wanna say something?
this club meets once a week for 30 minutes during lunch. And I'm thinking, most of the letters that I've gotten for it, basically are saying their lives are depending on this 30 minutes, one day a week. To me, it sounds like it's something that they need more than that. I'm not saying that we need to approve more than that. I'm just saying some of the things that are being thrown at us as to why to keep it aren't making any sense. And one of the things I had was, some of these kids go to this group because they are being supported at home. If they're not being supported at home, who is signing that permission slip? Is what I want to know. If they can't let their parents know, then who are those parents going to sign that permission slip? Or are those kids forging a signature? Or do the parents not know? And I'm not one way or the other. I'm just, live and let live kind of a thing. But I think this has caused so much controversy that the cleanest, smoothest way, in my opinion, is you get rid of it. Not get rid of it, but, have it cease. And any of the clubs that align with it, because I'm saying if we keep it, the clubs that may want to sign up and retaliate against it, we're going to have more problems. What if somebody wants to open up a Confederate club? What if somebody wants to open, I'm saying an NRA club? Now, you won't have guns on school, but what if you want to talk about it and learn how, there are going to be different clubs that are going to come in, and we're going to spend most of our time fighting against, why didn't our club get in? You let this club in, but not this one, and this and that. And I just think we're there to educate our students.
But the law is very clear on that. It says that you basically have to allow every club, except for you can't advocate violating the law. Beyond that,
NRA's not violating the law.
yeah, and you can allow an NRA club, you can allow a club that wants to promote that the world is flat. I mean, you can. The only thing that you can't allow is I can't advocate violating the law as a member of this club. I can't advocate that it's okay to beat somebody up.
Oh, well, no. But I'm just saying as much controversy as we have gotten over just this one club, are we going to spend the rest of our board meetings fighting against people that are wanting to put in different clubs? Or, like I said, we're there to educate, and keep our students safe. If they do not feel safe, but for that 30 minutes, one day a week, then we've got a different issue in our schools. If they do not feel safe all day long.
I agree there.
We have a disciplinary issue, or we have, we need to maybe have more counselors on hand, something.
So the good news is, this is my last board meeting. Because I am going on record, because I still am the acting superintendent, and I do not want to be named in litigation. Our attorney has been very clear that according to the law, this club has a right to exist.
And that's, she also said, unless we
Get
We-
rid
if
of
we
all
do, we
of
have to get rid of
She said even if we did get rid of all of
She
them,
said that it.
probably not gonna win
We
it.
probably
We're
wouldn't
not
win.
going
Still can't.
She did say that, we probably would not win.
Okay, I missed that somewhere.
So I'm going on record
Okay.
publicly. So, because I would be cited in litigation too if I did not do this, but I am, as protecting the district, if you do away with this club and it is challenged, it will put this district into
And she
litigation.
did say that we
Okay,
would
I missed
probably
that.
lose. She did say that we would probably lose.
Because I understood that.
Yeah, because
Because
it's
you get rid of
federal.
this one. you have to get rid of any of them that do not apply to the curriculum or.
Right.
That's right, but what I said was that both of these clubs are basically fall under the status of minority. And I literally bet the house that this board, and I will not be on it, thank God, will be sued, and there's a high probability that you're gonna lose.
Yeah, we will lose.
Okay,
She
well, first
just
of all,
about said,
I think-
she said that she could almost guarantee we would.
I think we need to, like we talked about last time, is just to look at the policy, make sure that club and any club that it wants to exist, because that's, we're not opening anything up. An NRA club could exist right now. A flat earth club could exist right now. And any of those clubs, any of those kids, any of those groups could have a club, including a peer supported Christian, Hindu, anything that doesn't interrupt curriculum, right? So I think it's more important to look at the policy, make sure that they understand the rules of the policy, and that they're, because all groups should have to make sure they're following the rules of those policies.
So as of right now, they're not following the policy, or have they come to date with following their policy?
They have requested and they have the permission slips in place. That's been in place for quite some time since it came to the board before. I don't know, and Sherry, you would know the answer to this because you have extensive experience with DAC. Is this appropriate to take to DAC to have them look at the policy?
Our
As far as
policy-
the procedural part, not the.
Sorry, say our policy is pretty concrete. DAC, no, I think that's opening up another can of worms. I think what we need to do is we need to make sure that every club, whether it be educational or social, I guess is the best way of putting this, understands that they have this policy. If they do not follow it, they will be shut down for not following policy. We need to see a syllabus on what's going on. A syllabus. You've got to have a syllabus. And I think that it should be in not just the principal's office, but because of all of this, it needs to be in the superintendent's office. And easily accessed for our community members so they can see it. If they have a visitor come into the school, it needs to be cleared. But not just Joe Blow walk in and say, hey, I'm sharing right, and, you know, I really think I have a lot of knowledge that I need to share. That won't cut it. It has to be prearranged, it has to be pre-approved on not just lunch bunch, but even the educational ones. Everyone needs to have that. So mom and dad can't come in and say, well, I want to know. They can come in and say, I want to see if my child has a signature.
Yes.
And if they don't, then that's out. But come on, guys. If you're going to be doing this, then you know who's coming into that classroom and you know who has permission slips. Don't fudge.
So I will put this.
I'm just, you know, I mean,
Well, and I
the thing
think
is,
that they
you
should-
just can't fudge. But I also agree with what Stacy and Sherry said. If these kids, if their lives are depending on 30 minutes a week, we need to get them help.
I mean, it's,
They-
mean, that-
You know, we've got a psychologist on staff, don't we?
Yeah, and if you notice, one of the priorities that's been brought forward is the social emotional needs of
So,
the students.
You know,
So
if
that's
they,
right in line with that.
if it's that dire, that important to them, then we need to get them, they need to be tuned into this psychologist.
I also feel like when
Not
those
to
kids go
change
to
their,
these meetings.
not to change their sexual beliefs, but to save their life.
And I think that these kids, if we continue to have these, whether it's student government, whether it's Rainbow Club, whether it's NRA Club, whether it's Grandma Likes Me Better Club, they should have to sign in every time.
Yes.
The school leader should be able to say,
It's
yes,
not in, it's not in our.
Sherry was
policy.
there.
We've got to make it a
Yeah.
policy.
That has to be confidential as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't,
that's real.
yeah, that's not,
That
that's
would just
not
be for
public
legal
knowledge.
purposes only, I would
Yeah.
think, if there was any kind of.
I think
Because we
there's,
have to protect the kids too.
Yeah.
oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there's some misunderstanding about what particularly, and at least my understanding, and I've talked to parents of some of these kids in the Rainbow Coalition. They're kids like a lot of our kids and grandkids are, in some cases, just trying to figure out where they are, what they, and some of them may be concerned that they have feelings that of the opposite sex, but it's at this point, from my understanding and talking to some of my grandchildren who talk to these kids, it's just sort of trying to figure out who they are. It's not a conversation like you would have with a psychiatrist. This is just kids talking amongst themselves.
Well, I agree with you, Jack, except that the letters we're getting are saying that their lives are depending on this facts. And if their lives are depending on it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a misnomer.
I'm gonna disagree with you, Jack.
You've got to say that.
And it's middle school for, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but middle school is rough for no matter where you are, your orientation, who, your family you're from, anything. I mean, middle school is a tough avenue.
But ultimately, if their lives depend on it, they feel their lives depend on it, it's because of the lack of support for who they are as people, whether it's at school or at home or in the community in general. And so they need to have support. And if it's only, Henry next to me or Sally once a week, that could be the whole difference, just because, they make those connections and they form friendships where because it's not even just to say, we're all speculating what they talk about. You could be talking about, I like to knit on Sundays. Well, if this boy in 6th grade is sitting here with boys who play football or baseball talking about knitting, it's not going to go over well for that boy, right? So it's not just about sexual identity. It's about just having somebody that can relate to a subject that you, whether it's arts or theater or anything like that. And so they form friendships with each other as well. And that support continues beyond that 30 minutes once a week.
Well, I agree with you, Chris. I still think though that if parents are saying that their child's life depends on 30 minutes a week, then they better seek different help. And if their kids are scared to talk to them, then the parents need to seek help.
Well,
I'm sorry.
So what was,
But I think that to just end this, because we know if we shut it down, we'll be sued, and we know we'll probably lose, because it is a federal mandate. It's not something that we can, we're hitting our head against the wall, we fight.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that they follow the policy completely, and that they understand, and they can't just wander in and out.
So one of the things that Dr. Vanderway and I talked about was having, in addition to the information on, transitioning the district, but really what are some immediate things, actions. So I'll put this down to sit with the middle school and high school principal and really go over the process policy, and then make sure, that the permission forms are in place. What does this look like? And so it will definitely, hopefully, any of the inconsistencies that has went on will be dealt with before school starts and before staff comes back? How's that
We need to
sound?
keep it transparent.
Yeah.
But we need to keep it confidential. And that means that when kids get these permission slips and it's put in the principal's office, an office aide can't file. That's, let's make sure the secretaries file, not an office aide, because things get, I've taught junior high, I've taught middle school, I've taught them both, and things grow.
Because, I mean, these kids do get bullied in some cases.
Well, all kids get bullied, Chris.
Not all kids
Yeah.
get bullied. There are the bulliers, and then,
Oh, yeah, there
which are the majority, and the people that enjoy the majority do not get bullied.
But
Not
there's,
the way minority kids do, or kids that don't fit in, and that's just, and that's,
Yeah.
that's.
Absolutely.
That is.
and there's certainly, there's an all kind of evidence. Anybody wants the evidence, I can get it in terms of the higher percentage of LGBTQ kids that commit suicide, that are abused. I mean, this is a serious problem. There are studies that show they are afraid to go to class. They spend less time in class, so their educational, they're not doing as well. I mean, this is a serious problem. I mean, it's different from, somebody who believes wants to have an organization that talks about the world being 10,000 years old. They can do that. That's all well and good. But these are kids, some of them that are at risk. And it's,
Well, that being said, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to end it because we've talked this as much as we can. Gifted kids are a higher rate of suicide than any other child because we're not meeting their needs. Okay, we're moving right along.
Sherry,
Yes.
would it benefit the district to reach out to Mancus? I know Mancus has a couple clubs, see how they handle theirs.
No,
And
we're going to do policies, we're going to follow it. I think that's all we need to do.
I'll reach out to them and see.
You can do whatever.
So-
Might as well.
You are a freaking.
I just have one
We're going to
question.
do our policies.
So if we have a group, like the fellow Christian athletes group that was in school and then they
They
moved
kicked
their
out.
group out,
Or kicked out.
those people are now going to be allowed to come back into
Yes.
the schools.
We kicked them out.
absolutely.
Yes,
So-
they-
Like, yeah,
We
A
can,
lot-
we
a
can,
lot-
my question
a lot-
was, is there a way to do a follow-up, on the permission slips? Like to do your child has submitted a permission slip with a signature. I need to verify.
That would
We would
be a
make it a policy, but
little dicey because even the attorney was questioning the need for the justification.
So that's what I'm saying, like, we're trying to protect their identities, but they need permission slips, but we're not sure who's signing a permission slip. So some parents aren't even aware if maybe their kids are going, that maybe they could get help for their child, like, one way or the other. You know what I mean? Like, we need to get them, like, this is how you feel, then we need to support you in that. We didn't realize, we had no idea. Or one way or the other, we didn't realize maybe we need to get some help now because we don't know how to cope with this.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something we need to ask the lawyers. I
I'm
mean, we
just-
didn't
I'm
ask
just
for that
saying.
specific question.
It just.
I mean, because we do that, when I started out, we did that when we got a note from a kid who, little Johnny was homesick today eating Oreos. We call mom and mom says, no, I didn't write that note. Why can't we do that same thing with these permission slips?
Or have the actual parents come in and sign them up. So you
No,
know.
that won't work because they were. And
Well,
some
or
parents
just
will-
some kind of,
Some kind of verification that we know
some
these
kind
parents
of-
know that where their kids are.
Okay,
Whether
that's
it's
one of the
with,
biggest concerns is parents didn't know their kids were going to these.
That's, Lori,
Well,
you and Risha can talk about this and talk to our lawyer and find out what we can do.
I will leave it for Risha.
Yes.
I have one point of life.
Here.
You have what?
One point of life.
Oh, are we being snarky?
No, it's just a reality.
There is a gray area,
So, no, I think that if they follow the policies the way they're supposed to, and then if it gets out of hand, I mean, if the bullying keeps going, that becomes a principal issue. And hey, guess what? We just did an expulsion policy. So we can do that if it comes to that. So, moving right along.
Thank you.
Nancy, are you awake?
Yes.
Would you like to present that?
Oh, the main thing that I was trying to bring forward to everyone, as you see, trying to retain our teachers, and other educators, is having enough planning time. And we're having all these problems where teachers are walking in at the same time as our elementary teachers. And that, why cannot we start school at 8 and end it at 3, and the teachers get there at 7, and so they, or at 7:30, whatever it is, so that they have their time to plan before school and get ready. It's just wrong that these little ones are at school for 8 hours and we can't plan for them well enough.
Are you talking about redoing the bus schedule?
If that has to be done.
I mean, if they come in at 8, what time do they get there now?
7:20.
And so if you're saying 8, and what time do they get to the high school, Lord?
We need to figure,
I mean, does that give enough turnaround time? Is this a Lena question?
it would definitely be a Lena question, but it would be extremely tight because we not only have the high school, we have the middle school.
Yeah. Well, Jamie?
I think you hit it on, Mrs. Right. In my years as principal in the district where we have the 2 routes, the one thing is very expensive, double the wear and tear on the vehicle.
I agree.
And there's no solution to keeping kids out of the building until 8 o'clock or whatever time. If those buses have to come early, drop them off and rush off to go pick up the secondary kids and then repeat the process at the end of the day. The true solution is going to cost money, which means to buy some additional buses used for whatever it might be. And I've heard anywhere from 6 to 8 buses, something like that, or even some mini buses for the smaller routes. And with this ESSER funds, would be the time to do it, perhaps, if we can justify it. But also, busing is a privilege, it's not a requirement.
Right.
And in my opinion, we want to get a commitment from a parent that their kid is going to ride a bus every day of the week or at least 4 out of 5, and if they don't, then, we need to get some solid numbers is what I'm saying. But if we had one bus route, they could bring the kids just before 8 o'clock, or right now we start at 7:50, let's just leave it at that for the hours. And if they drop the kids off at 7:45 or whatever, maybe time to come into the building and then into the classroom at the start time. But we do have them for 20 to 30 minutes before the school starts because of the buses. And that way, is the only solution I can think of.
And I think we all agree that a one bus route, regardless of the calendar, is what's best for this district, just because of the constraints that 2 bus route creates. We did put buses in the ESSER application, and then Kyle has it on his calendar that once the student count is known, then we'll do an external audit on our transportation routes. So the board should be receiving this information November-ish.
And even before that, I think one of the things that we did is we changed the software program that we use to track buses and mileage and kids, and it has a lot more in-depth access to planning routes and efficiency of routes and student tracking and safety and all kinds of things. So I think with the purchase of that, that'll help kind of give us a game plan of the route planning. And then with the student count being confirmed, and then also bringing in that outside auditor to kind of confirm what we find as far as routes. I would say definitely by November, we'll have a solid answer, but before that, we're definitely putting steps in place to get to that, because one of the things we mentioned is in January, we want to start that conversation on the calendar again, and this is a big piece of trying to get that done as well.
Actually, we'll start before January on the calendar, but what you're saying is where you're at, to go to a single bus route.
To get to a single bus route, yes. We may be able to cut some time with what we have currently, but not anywhere to really make an effect. Maybe we're talking 5-10 minutes, and then we're talking about buying buses that we don't know if we need or not without actually having the information. So
there's no chance of having the secondary go earlier again and the elementary? I know a lot of high school kids would rather go, I mean, they say studies show, but so many kids would rather go early so they can.
Well, so they can do their sports after school.
Sports after school and still
Go
get
to
to a
work,
job.
go to work.
Or, I mean, if we were to.
They could go earlier, for sure, if we had one bus route. And I don't know, I would sense to be aggressive with it. Once Kyle gets those numbers, you can try to start it in January and get the kinks worked out and develop your calendars. And if, everyone's starting school at 8 o'clock, including secondary students, and those kids that stay after hours at the secondary level won't be getting home.
But I think you were talking about flip-flopping the
Yeah.
elementary and secondary now.
Start the secondary at 7
For next year.
and,
Elementary.
Elementary and.
And if they don't need I don't know where that leaves the afternoon bus route.
It puts the grade school kids getting home late
Yeah.
and dark in the winter time.
And the issue that we have is that, and I do agree with you, for the research that shows that, teenagers do better later.
Well, I don't know
The
that I
kid-
agree with that,
kids,
I'm just
yeah.
saying that that's the word on the street.
But the kids, the kids don't like it. Secondary kids want to go earlier.
Yeah,
they
they
don't.
don't.
Yeah, all my
Yeah.
granddaughters wanted to go,
The-
they wouldn't get over.
The issue at the forefront is secondary would love to go earlier. Elementary wants to stay earlier. Because we had this conversation when we were developing the calendar, so that's what I'm thinking right now is you have staff both wanting to vie for that early slot.
So are we going on staff or are we going on students? So I guess what I'm saying, are we staff driven or student driven? Or are we transportation driven?
Oh, we're transportation driven, there's no question about that, every time that we try to make changes within the context of the calendar or add additional time, the 2 bus route really limits our possibilities of what we can change.
Hey Nancy, you had your hand up?
Well, the whole point is though, is that we want teachers to have time in their classroom before the students come. Even though they arrive at 7:20, we need to have an extra staff so that they're learning something somewhere. So the teachers are not all at the copy room trying to get ready or walking right in with their kids. And we know that happened this time, we've heard this in our classroom, we know we happened because of COVID. But I've been in this district long enough to know that this also happened before, so many years ago, when we had breakfast in the classroom. And you're walking in with your kids, and these little ones, they have to have attention. I can't write my lessons and get all my materials ready for whatever I'm gonna be teaching all day long with people in the classroom. That's what the staff, I keep hearing them say. They're not hearing us. They don't understand that we need time without the children. So that we can plan for them. It's like, if you're gonna go to a restaurant, are we gonna open up the door at the same time the chef and the employees go in? And that's how do we feel?
So they're
And
showing up at 7:20.
if they're there at 7:20, we still need class not to start till 8. So if the buses have to drop them off then, because we're transportation driven, that then you're going to have other things going on with the other staff, and they can't prepare for their grades.
Is there any type of solution where, because basically you need a half hour, is kind of what you're
At least,
saying,
I mean,
at least in the morning?
At
So,
least without,
so is there any solution to it where if, you know, say the kids are showing up at 7, you start education at 7:40 or 7, you know, something where the kids can get out? Because basically your day is 7:20 to
3:20.
the 3:20, so
That's not-
so is there any way where these kids can be getting on a bus and leaving school at, say, 2:50, and you plan your next day that night? So you roll in the morning, then there's nothing to get ready, you just get ready. I just
Right, and those are
brainstorming.
the types of things I'd like to be able to discuss instead of, as far as having some kind of small group to see what we can do, because we know, and that we have other people sometimes taking care of the students who are coming in. It's like impossible. And one of the things to retain our people, that's what they're saying, and some of them, why they wanted a 4-day work week was not necessarily just because it was 4 days, so they could come and volunteer their time on Friday to get ready for the next week. So somehow these elementary students don't need to be at school for 8 hours. They could be here for 7, 8 to 3. And this year, we, with the transportation being the way it was, I don't think I had more than maybe, we think 4 or 5 of my kids even riding the bus, because the parents brought them and picked them up. And so if they brought them at 8, and somehow we don't need the students there as well. We need to prepare for them so that we be ready for them. I mean, there are too many of our staff having said, they have to go to 6 jobs. My heart just hurts because I've been in this district forever. And it's like to see these people trying to get their lessons ready for these children. And then they have to go to another job. And they love these kids. Give them some planning time, figure that out, that the kids don't have to come to our school till 8 o'clock. Let them have a half an hour before and a half an hour after.
Or even, Jamie, if it's even 8:30, I mean, I'm just thinking, you can't get them to get out any earlier because the parents are all working. You know what I mean, like if, get out at 2:30 every day. I mean, we saw what people can do when you've been hit with the pandemic, that you're actually capable of making happen.
Yeah.
So, but we don't want to make families deal with that every year, every day. But even if we could somehow, you know, get them at their, even after the high schoolers, if they don't need that full 8 hours, the children, and then you guys can plan in the morning, and then maybe the high school kids would be home or parents would be off work. You know what I mean, to get these kids picked up or have someone there. I mean, I don't know. I think I see your plea for just some time. You just need some time. Lauren, do you have anything to say? We were just kind of a sidebar conversation.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah,
We're trying to hear the same.
we were just going a little deeper in about, the possibility of the releasing earlier to allow for the planning the night before versus the morning.
But that's still.
Is there somebody other than teachers can?
That's what I was going to ask. What about the parents?
Well, some of the trouble is, of course, is that we don't have enough staff because of money as well. And so it's kind of there. And then there's so many of our educators that also have to plan lessons for the kids. And parents, some of them are doing that as well. And of course, we have music and PE, and they have to have time for their planning their lessons. So
if you have a parent per grade level, to have them just go in one area, like kindergarten go into the library, and let's say 5th grade goes into the lunchroom gym, and put a para for each grade level and put them in a different room, like kindergarten one room. Would that help? I mean, we can't change our.
No, this is
That's
what
okay.
so, and that this whole idea is that we're trying to work together. I can really see this as part of our academic problem as well as it just, if you don't have good lessons, you're not going to. You have to have good lessons. So yes, we have done those types of things in the past where when they come at 7:20, they go through there and different places and the playground. And if we could just make that a reality, then they can go to these places, but with the ESSER funds, maybe we can hire more staff if we have to do it that way.
The ESSER funds is one-time shot, so, but then how do we pay them the next year?
Well, sometimes I think that we should do some of these one-time shots to prove that this would work, that we need help. We need more staff in our schools.
So what if we have the moving forward, having our new director of curriculum and instruction? That
The one
does,
that we've already done.
that does have historical background and has also assisted in developing the calendar this year, so he does have the nuances. And have Jim and Risha and Nancy meet in July. And to really have a conversation about this, which is a deeper conversation. And I hear what you're saying, Nancy, about not wanting to wait until the single bus route, which it will happen. I mean, if the board can make it happen, they're gonna make it happen. They made that very clear. For the following year, but I think that would be a good place to start. How would you feel about that, Nancy?
I think that would be great, because that's the thing, we need some way to make ideas before school starts, because school starts and whatever tradition we have, we stay on, just the way it happens, because of course the community is to that time.
That's what I was asking Lori about, the feasibility of like, if they need a half hour a day, can we accelerate the start time by 15 minutes and drop them out 15 minutes early, and the teacher's able to stay for a half hour after school where they're not there late or taking the work home with them. They can do their planning. Monday, they're planning is Monday night, they're planning Tuesday morning. So they show up, kids start showing up, they can engage with the children and just be present with them. And then when everybody's there and ready to go, they can just, they don't have to do it.
And, and that's a great, I like that idea, but I use Mesa as an example only because I live over by Mesa, so I'm by there at different times of the day. School gets out at 3:10. I can drive by Mesa at 3:35, and there's still teachers standing out there waiting for parents to come pick them up.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, another 30 minutes earlier, we're just gonna have more people standing out there if those kids get out early.
And I know that some parents already kind of balk at the early release on Wednesdays anyway.
Yeah.
And to have an earlier release every week or roughly the same.
But that's a tough problem because parents can get delayed at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it
It's not
happens.
because they're being hard-headed, because they have to look us.
Yeah.
But, the one thing I'd like to throw out, because I've always said elementary teachers are some of the stellar people. I mean, all teachers are, but, their planning time, their off-duty time compared to middle school and high school teachers are no comparison. And I've been around education for 62 years. So I think that possibly what we could do is talk to the school leaders and at least give these people, these elementary teachers, one Friday a month for strictly classroom time and not making it PD collaboration time at all. I think that if we could at least do that for them.
So not have school on Friday?
Well, the early release day, I'm sorry.
We already do
Release
that.
on Friday.
The first Wednesday early release is purely teacher-driven planning time.
Okay, Because that wasn't what I was,
Right, and that
Understanding.
was on my list to make sure that that continues.
Okay.
It just really started this last
okay,
year,
okay,
last year.
okay.
But that's why it was on that proposal that I gave you last time, to keep it there, because so many times it just get lost. And I appreciate the idea that we might be able to get together, because I put out sign-up sheets to get other ideas from all the staff the last couple of weeks, so we've got those ideas too. If we had ESSER funds, if we have, if the children are there, so that they have meaningful places to go, but keep them out of the places where they have to make the academic planning for the students. Until it's time to come into the lessons.
Can you sort of identify what's kind of the block sizes that you need? I mean, you know, if I had 15 minutes, that's really not gonna do me a hell of a lot of good. I mean, you know, I can shuffle a few papers around, but, you know, what kind of sizes do you need to really say, to accomplish what you want to accomplish, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I would take at least a half an hour in the morning for, just to get the impetus written on the little guys. And it's just all those other materials, you've got to sharpen pencils for some of these little ones and stuff as well. So no one understands it until you get into one of those classrooms. It's like, oh my goodness, I have all these things, but you have to have them. And then during the day, if we could make it consistent where they go to one of their specials and leave that, have like a half an hour each special so the kids are learning there, but then the classroom teacher can be doing planning.
You don't have specials now?
We do, but I mean, the time to take, that's the difference, like you said, secondary and elementary is that you've got to walk them there and walk them back and walk them here and walk them there. And by the time you're back, it's like maybe 35 minutes instead of your supposedly 40 at that time, 45. So we had it at one time, a whole hour. I remember that one. Had a half an hour of PE and
just special
half an hour, yeah, and back to back. So I'm hoping, you know, making sure that you're aware of this so that we can get together and get these ideas out there so we can plan better for our students.
Do the paraprofessionals at Kemper have duty?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody has to
And with this year being unique and having all our cohort groups, for example, it did cut into plan time to escort the kids there because we had to distance the kids, so it should be better next year where I looked at the schedule, it's 55 minutes instead of 45 for teacher improvement.
Okay. And then of course, the planning of the specials, that's your principal's job, not ours. That's your individual school principals. So if you meet with Risha and Jim, then and get going on that.
Maybe we can figure something out. And thank you board for listening. I think so many times, everyone doesn't really understand. We just want to help the kids, but we want to have time to plan for them.
Sure. That's critical, gotta have it.
Okay, I adjourn this meeting at 10:09.
We need to talk about Main Street and administration building.
Oh, I skipped that.
The good news is I think that will be
Table.
quick, yeah.
Oh, it'll be quick. Okay.
The reason why
That's why Jamie's still here.
That's okay, yes. Thank you, board. So I put some notes in this report about the HVAC. As you know, we acquired a couple bids, one for this building, one for Beach Street. And I remember last month at the meeting, the concern was the cost of an engineer and how much that would be and a possible change order, which was concerning. I talked to the contractor some more and was told that there could also be a change order once the engineering was done. If the unit, the heat exchanger was bigger than he anticipated, and it could be like up to $50,000 or something, he just didn't know. And so I called time out at that point, excuse me.
Said the change order would be 50,000?
Could be for the heat exchanger, which was not discussed. So, of course, we were off at this point, bringing it back to you. I listed some options here. There's been no contract signed. At this point, we're not bound or anything like that to have this done. What we could do is locate an engineer, I know one in Durango, to give us an estimate what they would charge to design something and then make a decision if we want to pay $15,000 or 20 or whatever. The contractor was referring what he thought it would probably be, but was unsure, and then make a decision. And if we want to do that, then we could get that design, put it out to bid, and then get a solid number. But I'm of the day and age when you give a bid, it's a bid, and not the change order. So that's two possible ones there. So it's a little bit of a dilemma because we do have good ESSER funding and opportunities, but at the same time, I'm leery of it. So
But we have the ESSER fundings for 18 months.
We have
So
to do
I-
the engineer, right?
Huh?
Okay.
Yes, there is money to do the engineering there. So I think the proposal is to table the proposals as it stands now because there's too many unknowns.
Right.
And then the board elects to get the engineer to come over and then basically just start all over again with the process. Where we are obviously is not.
Yeah.
So, yes,
At all.
just to reiterate, see how much it would cost, that it's reasonable to have an engineer for, both buildings, whatever. If you're wanting to, fix up the gym, then yeah, we probably need to do it in this building too. But I think that would be our best course of action because, for obvious reasons.
Right. Now, when he started talking about we're going to change orders right away,
No.
that's when I shut down at that point last time. So,
Yeah, I think engineer design is definitely the
Yeah.
avenue to go.
Okay.
You can save money in the long run,
I think it'd save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it could even, you said, could bring the price down a little bit because he doesn't know how much it's gonna cost. He said they have to custom build these heat exchangers. And it'll be based off an engineer. And that's why he said that could be a change order too, but one's a lot, two's too many. So, and I could get with Kyle and put a timeline out. I'm sure he can update you next month, so.
And I think an engineer report also, it helps out our maintenance staff because when we get an engineer report from actual engineer, they give us kind of maintenance schedules and pre-checks so that maintenance already kind of has a plan on how to keep those things going. So.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jamie.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for not signing that contract.
Oh, and one other note on a contract, our attorney gave us an excellent blueprint for that, a Word document. And that's what we use. There's also certain specific conditions the contractor has to abide by.
Good.
And I have that all in the
Completion date.
facilities file. So, yeah, it's good.
Thank you.
So was the end result just to engineer just like what you had recommended, Jamie? Was just for Beach Street only?
Yes. Is there anything else to come before the board? Anything for Deb to add to the agenda for next month, which is going to be July 20th, I believe.
Just something with the playground at Lewis. If you guys want to have a discussion on it or have the lawyer possibly write up something, because there's going to be a lot of equipment that comes out of there that could be donated to other profits or something like that to have, like an online, whole no harm, right? Set up for those people that want things that old equipment, so just it's being trashed.
Are you talking about the old equipment?
Yeah.
Because I thought at one point something was mentioned about having an auction.
That's part of the Well, I think that, policy says that all discarded and unneeded material and equipment goes to the warehouse, which this policy will need to be updated to. And then at that point, it gets sold. So, I guess I'm looking at Kyle.
Sealed bids or
Yeah.
actual open auction or?
I think it-
So it would be like a church group or something could buy.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'll have to look at the policy. It's either a public auction, it can be donated in certain cases as long as the board donates. The only thing is we need to look into is, being that it's really outdated playground equipment, some of it isn't even, it's for safety reasons, some of that stuff you don't even want to give out. So we just need to look into all the details of that.
It's probably more like families that would be more abstract to bid on, or instead of, donate it to somewhere where you're not gonna get anything out of it because they can't utilize it either.
Right.
Like you're saying.
Yeah, so
So-
the family comes
I mean,
by and they want
some
to
of
keep
it's
it water, then it's about to fall apart, that's on them.
Because, yeah, we'll have them sign agreements and all that stuff, so.
We had some of the same issues when we were demolishing the old high school.
Yeah.
I guess that for me, it's like the stuff that is good. It would be kind of, it'd be like good faith, because it's like we're getting it all for free. So we should pay it forward, and that might not have anything at all, like a nonprofit or something.
Yeah.
Might not even be here in the community that could, change, it could change what they have. Some of the stuff, it's like, there's a way.
Is there anything else to come before the board? We will adjourn this meeting at 10:43.